3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Live from the place yet not overly ostentatious convention center. It's the Henry B. Gonzalez Convention Center in beautiful San Antonio. This is day number 2 of Westwood One's coverage of the Final Four on Westwood One's Radio Row. Zach Gelb here with you For the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network, as we are broadcasting to you live once again from San Antonio across all the great local Infinity Sports Network affiliates, Sirius XM Channel 375, the free Odyssey app, and as always, streaming live on YouTube. We have a jam-packed show for you today. Some awesome guests joining us. Jason Horowitz, who is the voice of the Raiders and also is a part of Westwood One's coverage of the NCAA tournament. He's going to join us coming on in live in 20 minutes from now. Dana Altman, that men's head basketball coach at Oregon, will stop by 40 minutes from now. Jake Diebler, who is the head coach at Ohio State, will join us at the top of hour number 2. Chris Mack, who's now at the College of Charleston, formerly of Louisville and Xavier, will join us at 3:40 p.m. Central. And then we'll be joined in the final hour of the show by the head basketball coach at Alabama. And that, of course, is Nate Oats. And Nate Oats, by the way, has coached against all 4 schools that are in the Final Four. So he knows what it's like to go up against Auburn, Florida, Duke, and Houston. And clearly they had another successful season. Did not go as far as they wanted to go, going to the Final Four a year ago. But this time around they ended up just getting smacked on that Saturday night by Duke, and that's something that still stuns me because I thought that was going to be the game of the NCAA tournament, but it was quite the opposite of that. It was a big stinker, and it was a big dud, so we'll figure out what the heck happened there. Stu and I had a good night last night, by the way. If you were wondering, on the road with Stuart Kovacs this week in San Antonio. We got invited to like this media party, but there wasn't a lot of media there, if I'm just being honest, and Stu and I had a few drinks. We had some fajitas. They also had some, what was it? The bacon? What was it wrapped in?
It was chicken that was bacon wrapped.
Basically. Okay, so it was
with
chicken,
some kind of sauce that was really good. I don't know what it was, but it was awesome.
It was like a spicy chipotle sauce or something like that. And then they had baked mac and cheese bites, which were absolutely to die for. And then Stu and I, we needed to get some cardio in because we were both sitting around. We're like, oh, we got no steps here. And we did the Riverwalk again. So here's the latest update on the Riverwalk. Yesterday I led the show saying, a little bit overrated. You know, didn't think it was that good from what everyone tells me. Oh, you got to go to the Riverwalk. Oh, you got to go to the Riverwalk. Well, last night, Stu and I got a nice adult beverage, and we had a long walk down the Riverwalk, and it was a little bit better. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that the Riverwalk is the greatest thing that I've ever encountered, but it was slightly better than the way that I remembered it when we got on the air yesterday from our Wednesday night escapade. I am now staying through the weekend, which I was not planning on staying. I was going to be joining Stu on Saturday morning on a plane ride tomorrow, but then I was asked by the National Association of Basketball Coaches. They do a yearly award ceremony, and they do a breakfast on Sunday. They said, can you MC the event? So I said, of course I could MC the event. So then the people here that are in charge of booking my travel and my hotels had to scurry behind the scenes to get me more days at the hotel and get me a brand new flight as well. So I appreciate the folks at the National Association of Basketball Coaches for asking me to MC their luncheon on Sunday morning, and I appreciate them getting me in the building as well for tomorrow's Final Four games. You know, I've been to a lot of events, Super Bowl, I've been to NCAA tournament games, I've been to Army-Navy, as we've been to their radio row before, Stanley Cup playoff hockey. You know, the Masters is on top of my list and something that I have never been to, but I have never physically been to a Final Four game. And I guess if there's a year that you're going to go, even though I do not like watching basketball in football stadiums, but I guess I got good seats from the NABC. So if there's going to be a year that you go to the Final Four, when you have 4 number 1 seeds, I think you're going to get a sensational game between Auburn and Florida. I don't know how good of a game Duke and Houston is going to be. I do lean Duke. I'll give you a pick against the spread coming up later, and I do think Duke is going to win the game. I just don't know how close the game's going to be. But Kelvin Sampson has been unbelievable. He has been tremendous at what he's been able to do at Houston. You know, I wouldn't call it a dynasty because I don't think it's safe to say in what we do, if you don't win a national championship, if you don't have multiple national championships, it's tough to say that that is a dynasty. But with what he's done at Houston, whether it's the American Athletic Conference or it's the Big 12, to be able to to have this consistency and be able to continuously go far in the NCAA tournament and take Houston to new heights in this new era of name, image, and likeness and the transfer portal. Hats off to Kelvin Sampson, what he's been able to do. But I just think as Alabama got a rude awakening, that Duke is just a different juggernaut, and Duke is just at a different level right now. So that's kind of the lay of the land from here at the Final Four. Two other storylines. So Stu and I last night, we actually were walking back to the hotel. We got off the Riverwalk, and I said to Stu, this hotel that I pointed out is where all the coaches are staying. So I'm like, let's just walk in and see if anyone stops us, and we'll sit down at the bar and we'll have another drink. If you can't tell, Stu and I have been doing a lot of drinking on this trip. Right, Stu?
Yeah, a lot.
You need some more water. Stu is like slouched over here at Radio Row. He's like SpongeBob and Sandy. I need water. So someone gets Stu some high-quality H2O. So Stu and I sat down. We had a drink last night, which was another drink last night at the hotel, and it was like a who's of college basketball coaches. So pretty fun. And Stu's Lakers were on last night, and that's where the fun stopped for Stuart Kovacs, because what the heck, your Lakers going up against Golden State. Not that NBA regular season is a big deal, but it is a nice litmus test kind of for where the Lakers are at. And you look at what the Warriors did, I think this speaks more to saying that the Lakers have limitations, where when you look at the Golden State Warriors, Stu, I believe this Golden State team, if you get Steph Curry playing the way that Steph Curry has played in the last two games, 52 up against the Memphis Grizzlies, 37 up against the Lakers, plus the defense, even though I can't stand the guy, of Draymond Green, that team I think is more equipped to go on a deeper run this year if you were to just pin up the Lakers up against the Golden State Warriors, where I'm saying the Golden State Warriors are more equipped to go on the longer run.
Yeah, and when they made that trade for Jimmy Butler, before they were rumored to get Jimmy Butler, I was kind of like, doesn't really do anything for me. I don't think they're a contender. I don't think it really puts them over the top, puts them in the finals conversation. But I've been wrong. They seem to be a totally different team since that trade. And, yeah, they're right there. They have a chance to make it pretty far, I think.
I look at the Western Conference, and if I just gave you a few thoughts on the teams that are in contention, Oklahoma City, there should be no reason to doubt them, especially when now at the end of the season they're on an 11-game win streak. They've been the best team in the league all year long. They're 64-12. But there is a but with Oklahoma City. They have been phenomenal this year, but can they put it together in the postseason and not just win a round or two? Can they win 3 to get to the NBA Finals? I think they can. And I'm not going to sit here and I'm not going to doubt them. There's a reason why they have 64 wins, and it's not like they're falling off at the end of the season. They're now soaring, where it's, okay, you're at 64 wins, and you're still a part of an 11-game win streak right now. So Oklahoma City, to me, is the preeminent team in the Western Conference. Now, after that, Houston, I think, is the team that you have some skepticism about, where Ime Udoka is a phenomenal coach. I just don't think Houston is ready yet. Denver is the second best team in my estimation in the Western Conference, and they get the benefit of the doubt because you have Nikola Jokic. As long as Jamal Murray is healthy, you have Jamal Murray. We know that 1-2 punch together has won a championship, and just as long as Russell Westbrook doesn't want to mess up a game at the end of the game, that's a team that if it's not Oklahoma City, I'm going to then put my money on the Denver Nuggets. But after that, since I'm not putting Houston as that second team, you look at a team like the Lakers. I do think that the farthest the Lakers could go is to the conference finals, and it depends on the draw. And I do believe you could see something that happened a few years ago where they surprisingly find themselves in a place that they shouldn't be in. And then you see that the limitation and they hit an apex like what they did 2 years ago, I believe it was, up against the Denver Nuggets, where some of those games were great, but they ended up getting swept in the Western Conference Finals. The Grizzlies, I will not root for them. I will not believe in them. And I think they are trending in the wrong direction, 3-7 in their last 10. And they also fired Taylor Jenkins, who they've been a top 3 team in the Western Conference for most of the year, and now they're starting to fall. And I think that's a team that move shows that there are bigger issues there, and their season's not going to go where maybe they thought it could go earlier in the year. Minnesota, the chemistry has been lacking this year. They were a phenomenal story. They made a big move this year. They got rid of Towns. Right, you bring in Julius Randle, you bring in Dante DiVincenzo, and they've been fine. They've been good, but it hasn't clicked to the level that we thought it would with the Minnesota Timberwolves. And then after that, all these other teams to me are irrelevant. I'm not putting any stock in the Los Angeles Clippers, the Sacramento Kings, or the Dallas Mavericks. So the way I look at it in the Western Conference, if you say, Zach, you get 3 guesses right now on the 4th day of April in the year of 2025, 10 minutes past 2 o'clock here in the Central Time Zone in San Antonio. If you get 3 guesses on who's going to go to the NBA Finals out of the Western Conference, I think it's OKC number 1. Then I would say the Denver Nuggets 2. And then I would actually go with the Golden State Warriors at 3 to like Stu's point and what Stu said. That move of getting Jimmy Butler just gave that team hope again. We knew they were good, but we knew they had limitations, and you thought they were wasting Steph Curry. You know, Draymond could be a ticking time bomb, even though he's a tremendous player. Having Jimmy Butler there, I guess you could say made them find the fountain of youth a little bit. Now, I don't know how long it's going to last. I do not know how long this group together as a core is going to be able to be a team that we can look at and say, oh, maybe they're going to an NBA Finals, but I think they're more than capable of it this year. So OKC to me is the best team in the West, then it's the Denver Nuggets, and then it's followed up by the Golden State Warriors. Those are the 3 teams I would say have the best chance to get to the NBA Finals out of the Western Conference. Now, let's move it forward and get to Colorado, who their pro day is wrapping on up. Before we do that, Werner is the official ladder of the NCAA March Madness and the official ladder of construction professionals everywhere. Conquer new heights with Werner, available nationally at the Home Depot. So let's hear a little bit from Coach Prime as he did meet with the media earlier today before you had Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter with the Colorado Pro Day. A lot of NFL personnel in Boulder, Colorado to go talk to Shedeur Sanders, to go talk to Travis Hunter as well. This is Coach Prime on his meeting with the Cleveland Browns owner in Jimmy Haslam.
Pleasant. It was charming. It was engaging. And it was cool. It was all right. He's a good guy, and I like it. I like it.
Coach,
I think one of those guys is going to be there.
I love the way that he said that. It'd be like, Stu, what do you kind of think about Coach Prime? What would you kind of think about just the idea of Stuart Kovacs? Like, if I got a chance to meet him, and if I just said, yeah, he's fine, he's a cool cat, yeah, he's good. It's not really convincing, Stu, is what I'm saying. It's almost like Coach Prime is like, I don't need to like Jimmy Haslam. I don't need to think he is phenomenal, but what he said at the end is the truthful part, that in all likelihood, probably Travis Hunter or Shedeur Sanders are going to wind up in Cleveland. And that's the question to me, who is more likely to wind up in Cleveland? Could it be Abdul Carter? Yes. I guess there is a chance that it could be Abdul Carter, but I do really believe that the number 1 pick of the draft is going to be Cam Ward. And then when it comes to the 2nd overall pick of the draft, I'm going to sit here today, Stu, and I'm going to say it's Travis Hunter still. I think they should take Shedeur. I don't think they will right now. You can make the case for Abdul Carter. I know we've talked about this nonstop, but for you, when you look at the Browns at 2, where are you at on this never ending on what you think is going to happen with Cleveland? Can we get Stu's mic on?
So I don't think it'll be Shedeur. I think it is between Carter and Hunter. I'm kind of with you. I think it's going to be Hunter at this point. I don't think it's going to be Carter. I probably would go Carter to just have that double edge rush with him and Garrett, but I think Hunter is the most likely option there.
Okay. So, and I think that's the way that Coach Prime kind of thinking about it too, because one of those 2 guys are going to wind up, in my opinion, in Cleveland, and that's why I'm leaning right now with it being Travis Hunter, because I don't think they're going quarterback. Here is Coach Prime and the potential of Shedeur Sanders actually to the Saints. Remember, this has been kind of speculated. I think it was Field Yates who had Shedeur Sanders falling a bit.
Coach, could you speak to the possibility of Shedeur being coached by Kellen Moore, who's coached Dak Prescott, Justin Herbert, and recently?
Say it again.
Speak to the possibility of Shedeur being coached.
The what?
Yes, sir.
The Saints?
Yes, sir.
I like the colors. I like the colors. I like the city. I like the food. I like the people. I like the possibility.
I kind of wish he would have said Shedeur wouldn't be available then. Now, those answers, Stu, where he's like, oh, I like the colors, and I like the people, and I like the city. I think that was Coach Prime's way of nicely saying, fun spot, good spot, but if Shedeur is still there at 9, something really happened wrong in this process.
Yeah, it wasn't the most ringing endorsement. And it might be like what you said, like just the idea that he probably doesn't want him to be available to the Saints unless they trade up, which I don't know if that's a possibility or not. But, yeah, it's when you start talking about the colors of the team and the food, that's –
So we're in agreement here. Cam Ward 1 to Tennessee, right?
Yes, definitely.
Then with the second overall pick of the draft, we're both said that it's going to be Travis Hunter 2 to the Cleveland Browns.
Yes.
Giants on the clock at 3. Is it Shedeur?
I think it's Shedeur.
You still do?
I do, yes.
Even with all the stuff the other day, because we put so much stock in Schefter.
Yeah.
At first saying, hey, the Cleveland Browns are going to take a quarterback with their first-round selection. Then he walked it back. Now Schefter the other day coming out and saying it's starting to feel like the Cleveland Browns are going to pass on a quarterback. It's starting to feel like the New York Giants are going to pass on a quarterback. That doesn't change your mind process and your thought process on this at all.
Not right now, no. I think the signing of the 2 veterans, I don't think that really impacts it as much. I still think assuming the Browns don't take him, he's there at 3, I think the Giants take him.
I'm with you. I think that's what the first 3 picks of the draft are going to be. I think it's Cam Ward 1, then either Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter 2. I do think the Browns are going to go with the dual threat star in Travis Hunter at 2, and then it's going to be the New York Giants with Shedeur Sanders at 3. And that's the other thing. I just don't understand people that are saying, oh, Russell Wilson's getting $20+ million, and Jameis Winston got a very small contract, so now we can't sit here and the Giants, right, they can't go take Shedeur Sanders at 3. That just doesn't make sense to me whatsoever. So as we have the Colorado Pro Day wrap on up, that's where I'm at currently. I think it's a cool storyline. I think it'd be fun to see Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders follow one another. The way I look back at it, Shedeur Sanders was the MVP of the Colorado football program this past year, and then Travis Hunter was their best player, and we know he ended up winning the Heisman Trophy. And with what happened with both of them at Jackson State and then Colorado, I think they're going to follow each other in the order of the NFL draft, and it's a fun storyline with the Cleveland Browns with the second overall pick in the draft taking Travis Hunter, and then with the third overall pick, it is going to be Shedeur Sanders. All right, we'll take a timeout live from Radio Row in San Antonio for Westwood One's Radio Row coverage of the Final Four as the road does end here in San Antonio. We'll take a break. We'll come on back after these short messages.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back to the Zach Gelb Show.
Alrighty, welcome back in. It is the Zach Gelb Show from Westwood One's Radio Row, San Antonio for the Final Four. And now joining us, just retired from Florida State after a legendary run. And he, of course, is Leonard Hamilton here with us. Coach, first and foremost, congratulations and thanks for stopping on by.
Well, thanks, Zach. Thank you guys for having me.
So now that you're away from the game, you know, what has it been like just the last few weeks processing how this has finally come to a close?
Well, I haven't quite gotten away from the game yet. You know, it's still a little early. We're still doing some what you call cleanup.
Okay.
You know, obviously when you have youngsters that you dealt with over the years, not only the ones that you presently deal with, but the ones before, you know, they all need guidance. You got those relationships where they're trying to make changes in their life, and they all want to talk to you about the decisions that they make. So I'm not real sure I'll ever get away from the game that much, but maybe I'll be able to spend a little more time at home and a little more time relaxing.
Well, here's the bottom line. You're going to coach until you're no longer on the earth. You may not be looking at the scoreboard and seeing the time tick away and things like that, because the relationships you develop in this game,
yes,
they literally last forever.
No doubt about that. People always tell parents you think it's a 4-year decision that you're making, but it's really a 40 and 50-year decision. You know, some of my fondest memories is when they call you on Christmas and want to wish you Merry Christmas. They call you on Father's Day, your birthday. They want you to meet their fiancés. They want you to be there for those special occasions. They want you to meet their kids. And in my last game, Solomon Oliver brought his whole family from Seattle.
Wow.
Sam Bowie came back from Kentucky, him and Dirk Minifield. I had a group, about 9 of the players that I played with at the University of Tennessee at Martin, and I was the first black player there, and that was 1968 when I went there, and I had a whole team of guys standing there on the baseline with me enjoying my last game. That just shows a little bit about the relationships and how meaningful they are when you go through college sports like basketball.
And what is it like for some people, right, that worked under you, and you kind of been able to mentor to now see them go on and have success in the college basketball world?
Well, it's so gratifying when you see Dennis Gates and you see Andy Enfield, and Bill Self, guys who were guys who I hired when they were really young, and to see how well they've done in the business and how successful they are mentoring kids and winning games and having successful careers. It really warms your heart when you see that.
Leonard Hamilton here with us. So I would refer to you as a basketball lifer. And we've seen a lot of legendary coaches the last few years kind of hang them up, whether it's Coach K, Roy Williams. I thought it was a little early for Jay Wright, but, the NIL and the transfer portal and all that stuff plays a factor into it. We just saw what happened with Tony Bennett as well. What has the last few years been like in this new era and this new wave, just adjusting to what it has become NIL and the transfer portal?
Well, there's no doubt that it's different. I've always tried to be careful not to voice my opinion because that's a little controversial, and some people they misuse your words and misinterpret what you mean, and it comes across like I'm not interested in kids getting compensated. Mm-hmm. That's not the case. I have more questions than I have answers. I would like to know now that we came up with these rules and regulations to govern this new era we're in, what were the plans that of how we supposed to deal with this? I mean, I'm sure that the framers of the situation had experts, psychologists, to understand the effect that this scenario would have on kids. I'm sure they had statistical analysis to be able to predict what was going on what would be going on as a result of these changes. Why we didn't need more rules and guidelines to govern how to manage ourselves doing this and not just in the present state we are now. For instance, in our society, we have an organized society. We have rules and regulations that govern how we live.
Oh, there's no rules in this system, I'll tell you that.
In other words, you can't work for your radio station today in the crosstown rivalry tomorrow.
Oh no!
You can't play for the Lakers on Monday and the Clippers on Tuesday. You can't be the president of NYU and then the next day be the president of Columbia. But in college sports, you can go to school, take your NIL money, find out that the kid that you didn't know was better than you, redshirt and transfer in January and be somewhere else, receiving someone else's NIL. In other words, the way this thing is set up now in the portal, that then you have so many kids making decisions, emotional decisions. For instance, if I'm on a diet, it doesn't do me any good if you got chocolate cake in front of me every day.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Speak.
Now, look at this. If 3,000 basketball players put their name in the portal, mm-hmm. the statistics, I believe, are somewhere close to 40%. That 40% of them will not even get an offer. Okay. Of that 40%, which is probably if it's 3,000, probably be like 1.2, be a million, 2 kids. 1,002 kids that didn't get that didn't pick up a scholarship. Multiply that times 5, that's about 6,000 kids, of which 85% of them are black. So you're gonna have that number of kids without a scholarship, without an education, and then you fast forward 10 years from now, then what are those guys doing with their lives? Because they went after the pie in the sky. Realistically, there has to be some type of organization that don't put guys in those situations to put themselves in a negative situation. And a few years ago, we didn't even let people play in the NCAA tournament who didn't graduate their players. Now, you haven't heard anybody say anything about graduating lately.
Because it's all about money. That's what it is. And this is what I struggle with. So I'm for transfer portal. I'm for name, image, and likeness. But there's no rules really in it. And it is the wild, wild west. And I kind of look at it as you're going to have kids that are going to make decisions, right? Like any kid that goes to college. And that decision could be a decision based off money. It could be a decision based off playing time. Or maybe just the school isn't a fit. I don't know if kids are making the right decision when they move anymore. And that's the part where I think they get burned.
Okay, see, that's your opinion. Mm-hmm. I'm dealing with facts.
Okay.
The facts say that close to 40% of those kids will not get scholarships. See, that way it takes me out of me disagreeing with you on my opinion, vice versa. See, and I think what happens is we all have opinions, but we got to back them up. In fact, the fact is that academically it's compromising our principles. Now, I was at Miami for 10 years. I had 3 kids not graduate. I'm at Florida State. For 23 years, I had 5 kids. So in 33 years, I've only had 5 kids not graduate who stayed with me for 4 years. So getting your education means a lot to me. I think that's what our job is supposed to be. Mm-hmm. But right now, it's like raising your kids, and you open the refrigerator, they see Snickers and Almond Joys and candies and cakes and ice cream, and you tell them don't open the refrigerator. And we putting these things in front of these guys
tempt them.
For them to be tempted to make these decisions. And I'm just confused as to how are we supposed to navigate through this when statistically, forget my opinion, the statistics say there's something flawed. But we won't have that discussion.
So let me ask you this. If you could make one change to the system, Leonard Hamilton, what would that change be? What would you, they say you could do one thing to this system that we have going on right now, what would be the first thing that you say?
The first thing I would do is bring everybody to the table, the guys who are in the trenches, so we can have a discussion with people who live it, walk it, and feel it. I don't know who has been a part of these decisions, but I would be curious to find out how many coaches, how many psychologists was in the room, what statistical analysis did they do on making these decisions. I mean, how did we come to this conclusion? I mean, who advised them and who were in the room? Were they guys who work in this era every day, or somebody who you put on the committee who showed up and went into a room and thought things through, and they balanced some things around and came up with, I don't know how these decisions were made. So that means I'd like to come up with a more transparent way of how we make these decisions. Because when you look back at the history of college sports, there's always been rules put in, and then after 3 or 4 years, sometimes they change them back.
Oh, yeah.
So what I'm saying to you,
need some consistency.
We have some history with that. Mm-hmm. So I think the decision-making process needs a little more work.
Last thing I'll ask you, Leonard Hamilton, longtime coach at Florida State, now off into this next chapter where we know he's really not going to be leaving the game. When you look at the games coming up on Saturday, what stands out to you when you look at Auburn and Florida and then Duke and Houston?
What I've seen with these guys, the kids play with a lot of passion. They're well coached, and they're playing the games the right way. Like Duke plays defense, and they share the ball. So does Auburn. You know, it's not one man gets the ball and ISO, take 9 dribbles, and make a tough shot. These teams are really playing good basketball, and I think it's going to be fun to watch because they're going to play hard, they play with passion, they move the ball, they make the extra pass, they create for each other, and I'm looking forward to it because as I watch the game as a coach, you know, you're analyzing, and these guys play basketball the way it's supposed to be played. Mr. Naismith would be very proud to watch this Final Four.
You could be the commissioner of college basketball, for being honest. That could be the next chapter for you. You'd be good. Be a good authoritative voice on all this stuff with all these manners.
Well, I got a lot of things I'm thinking about. I want to do some ministry. I think I want to do some educational pieces. I want to do maybe some affordable housing. I want to do something to give back.
Sure.
Because I had so many people help me along the way. And I wouldn't be where I am without somebody doing something to help me. So I'm all in.
He's Coach Leonard Hamilton. Coach, we always appreciate it. Let's send it back to our New York City headquarters and stand by with the latest sports flash. Here he is, Marco Belletti.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
Zach, Pro Day at Colorado done. Shedeur Sanders throwing to the likes of Travis Hunter. Both players likely to go in the first few picks. Titans, Browns, Giants, owners of the top 3 picks were well represented at the workout. All 3 GMs were there, including a pair of head coaches in Kevin Stefanski and Brian Dable. Finger gun gesture has cost Ja Morant $75,000, fined by the NBA after they issued a warning the first time he did it, but he repeated the gesture in the very next game. Morant, of course, suspended twice during the 2023 season due to a pair of gun-related incidents. A few big matchups in the West tonight. Warriors and Nuggets vying for seeding in a crowded conference, while the top 2 teams square off, Thunder and Rockets, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander knows they got that target on their back every game.
Our job every night and our goal every night is to counteract that with imposing our will and our identity on the game. And usually when we do so, we end up in the win column.
Taking a look at baseball, the Tigers roll over the White Sox 7-1. That's bottom 7. Trevor Story, a 3-run shot. The Red Sox plated 5 in the first. Now a 6-4 advantage on the Cardinals. Top of the 5th inning at Fenway. Padres and Cubs, they're even at 1. They're at the bottom of the 5th at Wrigley. Home opener for the Cubs. And Pete Alonso, a 2-run shot as the Mets lead the Blue Jays 2-0 as they head to the 2nd. I'm Marco Belletti.
Hey sports fans, it's JR from the JR Sport Brief. Check us out 24/7 on your smart speaker. Just say, play Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. "45 seconds remaining. "30 seconds remaining. "15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
You're listening to the Zach Gelb Show.
The 2027 X15 engine from Cummins, featuring better fuel efficiency, immense power, and backed by 25-plus years of experience, the 2027 X15 is built to rise above the challenges of tomorrow. The X15 forever rising. Also, the Zach Gelb Show on Westwood One's Radio Row from the Final Four is brought to you by Werner, the official ladder of NCAA March Madness and the official ladder of construction professionals everywhere. Conquer new heights with Werner, available nationally at Lowe's. And now joining us on the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network live in San Antonio is the head basketball coach at Oregon, and that, of course, is Dana Altman. Coach, appreciate the time. Thanks for doing this.
No problem. It's great to be in San Antonio.
Yeah, no, it's great to have you on set live with us. So going into the Big Ten, right? That's been a big topic of conversation with all the conference changes, and it doesn't make sense from a geography standpoint. But we know it's money driven, and I get it. Football drives the train, and I love Dan Lanning. I love the Oregon program for football. But for you guys, how did you think it was the adjustment going through it now for a year?
You know, it was exciting. Change is good. At 14 years that we spent as coaches in the old Pac-10, Pac-12. Moving to the Big Ten, provided some challenges, but it was exciting for our fans. I think our players enjoyed it. We had some long trips, but fortunately the school was very supportive in our travel, and so the trips didn't seem that bad. Playing in a lot of new environments, which was fun for our players. So the move was good. And I think our players enjoyed it. Our fans enjoyed, new teams coming into Eugene, Oregon to play. So the move overall, I think, was very good.
Dana Altman here with us. You look back at your season, right? You guys were right in it at the end up against Arizona. I know I probably shouldn't tell you this. I had you guys in the betting world, so I was hoping you guys would pull it out there at the end. But you guys beat Liberty, and then it just doesn't go down for you guys late up against Arizona. How do you look at that two-game run in the NCAA tournament?
Well, I really disappointed. We shot free throws great all year. We went 12 for 22, and if you had money on the game, you're probably one of those ones that was screaming at the TV.
Just a little bit.
Besides me, Again, we had shot free throws well all year. As best free throw shooting team we had in 11 years. And for whatever reason, we didn't shoot them well that night, and it cost us. Arizona shot them well. Love had a good game. but we needed those free throws, and 12 for 22 at that time of year is not going to get it done.
You know, it's weird because we knew about the conference changes, but then when you see Arizona play Oregon, you go, oh, this is a Pac-12 matchup. You're like, oh, well, the Pac-12 is really no longer. Those adjustments, was there still some familiarity with Arizona just because of all those years in the Pac-12, or did it look totally different?
No, it was familiar. We went back. We had played them 27 times in the 14 years we were together in the Pac-12, and we were 15-12 against them. So our guys went into the game. In the last game we had last year in the Pac-12 tournament, we beat them. So our guys went in, pretty confident, and we knew their guards. Bradley was back, KJ Lewis was back, Love was back. So we knew their players. We were fairly confident going into the game and started off great. But again, the free throws, some defensive transition that we just gave them baskets on really hurt us. But it felt like a Pac-12 game. We were playing them in Seattle, so yeah, it felt like a Pac-12 game.
Are there still rivalries, in your opinion, with all the changes in college basketball? Because you mentioned Arizona, it's like, oh, that felt like a rivalry game still for you guys.
Well, when we went to Oregon 15 years ago, Arizona and UCLA were at the top of the league, so obviously we picked them as the team we got to go get, and so UCLA is still in the league, so we feel like we've got a rivalry with them. Arizona, was a team that we look forward to playing every year. Their crowds are great. They got a lot of tradition. Lute Olson, built that thing, and Sean did a great job. So we always felt like we had a rivalry with them. Washington's kind of a rival, but they're still in the Big Ten. So, I think we've been able to maintain those rivalries, and it'll be a little different trying to establish some rivalries with the schools out east, because their fans won't feel the same, because they're not going to be able to come to our
different
venue.
Energy.
Yeah, and our fans can't go to Ohio State on a Wednesday night to see a game. So you won't have the same types. I think in football they might, because you got Saturday games. You're traveling 1 or 2 games, so you can go see some different venues. But in basketball, it's different when you're playing 10 road games in a conference season.
I went back, as Dana Altman's here with us, the head men's basketball coach with the Ducks of Oregon, and I looked back at your Elite Eight game in 2017, and I saw the interview you gave when you guys punched that ticket to the Final Four, and you were very calm. That's such a big moment. I know you're excited. Jay Wright, we've seen him win a national championship at the buzzer, and it was almost just a state of shock that overtook his body. What do you remember from that night punching the ticket to the Final Four?
Well, I haven't seen the interview, but if I was calm, it was...
you look relaxed.
No, I wasn't. We had to play Kansas in Kansas City, and it was, that's what you strive for as a coach. You want to go to the Final Four. You want to win a national title, but to do that, you got to get to the Final Four. So that's a goal, I think, of anybody who enters college basketball. And and ever since, you're trying to get back. We've been to a couple other Sweet 16 since then, but if we're going to get back to the Final Four, you got to get to that Sweet 16 and hope for some good things. We beat Michigan by 1, and then we had to play Kansas in Kansas City, and we shot the heck out of it that night. Tyler Dorsey hit like 5 threes, and so we were able to advance, and then lose a heartbreaker to North Carolina by 1. So it's what every coach, I think, when you get into college coaching or Division I, you're like, Final Four is always a goal. And I was really excited. My family was excited. It was a great night. And to do it, I spent 7 years at Kansas State, so to get Kansas was a little extra special.
For you, is coaching with NIL and the transfer portal, and I get it, Oregon has money, but is it still fun? Like, do you still go to work every day and you're having fun? You can keep yourself, see yourself keep on doing this?
Well, the one thing that hasn't changed is I love practice. I love, starting in September, October and building a team and see what we can put together. Going to practice throughout the year and spending times with the fellas, it keeps you young, it keeps you energized. That hasn't changed. The games are tough. They're no fun. And some of the stuff, has changed our job a little bit. But, my hobby's my job.
Yeah.
So you can never, if I wasn't coaching basketball,
What would you be doing?
I'd be watching college basketball every night anyway.
So
now I can pretend
coaching.
It's my job. But, I'd have probably got into business. I went and got a master's in business administration,
That stuff's not
MBA.
fun,
but it wasn't, it wasn't the same. And started my career coaching junior college ball, so I didn't get into it to go into Division I. I wanted to coach JUCO ball, and that's where where I played, and I played Division II. And I wasn't riding the bench. I was at a Division II school, so my thoughts were never about getting in Division I or anything like that. I just wanted to coach, and I got some good players that sent my career a different direction. But no, I don't think anybody gets into coaching thinking I'm going to do this or that. I love going to the gym at 3:00, and it's what I wanted to keep doing.
So, like, when you see a Roy Williams or a Coach K walk away, alrighty, Jim Boeheim, it's time. I get it. But when a Jay Wright walks away or a Tony Bennett walks away, I go, ooh, that's a little bit early. For you, how much longer do you think you could see yourself continuing to coach?
I don't know. I'm turning 67 here quickly. I don't know how much longer Oregon wants me to coach, but that'll be part of it. As long as my health and my family's health, all my kids moved out to Eugene, so we got our whole family there in Oregon. That helps. But I want to coach. I got a lot of years left on my contract, and so until the university tells me it's time, or my health, or the fellows on the team just say, Coach, we want somebody new. I want to coach. I love going to work.
Is Oregon definitely the last stop for you?
Absolutely. No. Mr. Knight, Mr. Kilkenny, the two guys that basically hired me, I told them a long time ago, as long as you want me to coach, I'll be here, but I'm not going anywhere else. Oregon's been great to me and my family. I have no thoughts of ever going anywhere else. I love it out there. I think we have a chance to win a national title, and so I definitely wouldn't even entertain the thought of going anywhere else.
Last one for Dana Altman. You look at the games coming up on Saturday. You got 4 number 1 seeds. You got Auburn and Florida. I think that's going to be just a slugfest. And then you got 2 really good coaches with Kelvin Sampson leading the way for Houston, going up against John Shire. What stands out to you with Saturday?
Well, personally, I'm kind of pulling for the old guys. I've known Kelvin for a lot of years.
It's their time, it feels
and
like.
Bruce for a lot of years. I don't know the young guys nearly as well. So I'm kind of pulling for the old guys. But, Kelvin and Houston, that's a tough game. Duke's got great positional size. They're big at every position. But Houston is really tough. That's going to be a great game. And then you got 2 Southeast Conference teams playing each other again. So Auburn, Florida will be a great game. It's 4 number 1 seeds. It's going to be a great tournament. But personally, I'm pulling for the old guys. I hope they do well.
Well, Coach, hey, we appreciate you coming on. Thanks so much.
You bet. Thank you.
There he is, Dana Altman, the head men's basketball coach at Oregon, kind enough to join us for a few minutes on Radio Row. Good chat there about his future and also all the things going on with the conference changes and also name, image, and likeness and the transfer portal. Every time you come here to a Final Four now in this new era, and I wonder when that goes away, because the storylines with Auburn and Florida and Duke and Houston, and there's always a bigger picture storyline that's away from these games. Sometimes it's in the coaching world or the big move or the big domino that does fall. But really the last 2 to 3 years, it's been conference changes and also name, image, and likeness. And you start to wonder when that will potentially fade away and when we will get back to just talking about this is the system in college basketball. Take a break. Jason Horowitz is going to join us on the other side. We'll talk some Raiders. We'll talk some Final Four with the man that does a great job as the play-by-play voice of the Raiders and also does a great job broadcasting for Westwood One. Coming on back.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 4 minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
All right, welcome back into this Zach Gelb Show, coast to coast on the Infinity Sports Network. And now joining us here on behalf of Westwood One, obviously with all their great coverage for the NCAA tournament. I was just actually listening to him this past weekend for the Auburn-Michigan State game with all the studio coverage. He's also the play-by-play voice of the Raiders, and that is Jason Horowitz. Jason, how are you?
I don't have a hat like you, though.
No.
It's a very impressive thing. I
It
actually
is.
thought about. I've never thought about buying.
Well,
one. I don't,
is it a
I don't know why I
Detroit
was going to say
Tigers
that.
hat?
This is. I grew up in Michigan. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and my
so-
college roommate and one of my good friends is also the play-by-play voice of the Tigers too.
Oh, nice.
So Jason Benetti in his
Yeah.
second year with the Tigers. But yeah, so I am a big Alan Trammell, Lou Whitaker, Cecil Fielder guy.
Well, I think I'm the OG Tarek Skubal fan because my baseball team, I
He's
traded
been
for him.
rocked the first two outings.
Yeah,
Not so good.
Well, friend of the show, so calm down. It's early in the season. He just gave you a Cy Young and a great season. Relax a little bit. But my fantasy baseball team's name is Scooby Dooby Doo, and I
like
traded
that.
for him when he was relatively unknown, and I've kept him for years. So I am a Tarek Skubal degenerate.
So my fantasy football name used to be Let's Get Denarded because I was a huge Denard Robinson fan. So it's very, very. I like Scooby Doo though. That's very good.
Are you a Michigan football fan?
I did, yeah. So I grew up in Michigan. I grew up a huge Michigan fan. My uncle was the one who got me into sports. He came into the family, and when I was about 8 or 9, he took me to my first Michigan game. We'd go all the time, and then when I got into high school, he'd take me almost every week. And so the first time I went to Syracuse, he was the one who took me, and we'd take road trips to look at colleges that we were going to go to, and it was awesome.
Yeah, there could be a picture of me on the internet somewhere where I am jumping onto the field after Michigan beat Ohio State 2 years ago in the big house after having a few pops, and I was storming the field afterwards. And the Ohio State fan, I think his name is Bucknut or something.
Yeah, Bucknut.
I ran right past him and screamed, OHNO! And he was not too appreciative of that.
Yeah, Bucknut's very fair. So it's my one of my radio partners with Sirius XM, Ben Hartsock, is an Ohio State alum. He was on the 02 national championship team. And the year that Michigan broke the streak, what was that, 21?
Mm-hmm.
Was that the year that they broke the streak? We also worked at the time with John Jansen, who's a good friend of ours.
Love John.
So he went with John and was on the field when Michigan won, and then everyone stormed the field. And I'm like, dude, would you convert to be a Michigan fan? You stormed the field. He's like, I wanted to experience it. I'm like, you're a Buckeye. And Ohio State hasn't won since, so it's his fault.
I love that.
Fault. Yeah.
That's great. We'll start floating that in the Ohio State community. He'll get canceled there.
He knows. He knows when he's in the building, they lose.
All right, let's get to the Raiders. Jason Horowitz. We'll talk Final Four as well. I've been sitting here, and when Shedeur Sanders comes up, I say the Cleveland Browns should draft him at 2 because I think Cam Ward's going 1. If the Browns passing him, I think the Giants should draft him at 3. But even Adam Schefter the other day said it's starting to feel like the Browns and the Giants, and who knows what's true, but it's Schefter saying it, so it matters. But it's starting to feel like the Browns and the Giants are both going to pass on Shedeur. What do you think the level of interest is from the Raiders?
I think there's interest. I don't think so. A couple of things here. People have pointed to when Pete Carroll drafted Russell Wilson, and they're not afraid to bring in a quarterback. Well, Matt Flynn got a contract, but it wasn't like Tom Brady money, and Russell Wilson wasn't a first-round top 10 pick. He was a third-round pick. So I don't think those things are comparable. I do think you look around the league, though, and you see what the Falcons did last year, and everyone criticized them for it, and rightfully so, because it didn't work out the way that, or maybe it actually worked out the way they thought it would. When you pay Kirk Cousins all that money, you decide, hey, we're going to have a backup plan just in case it doesn't work, because who knows when we're going to be drafting top 10 again. And the plan in that case with the backup is important because they've got their guy, whether Penix works or not, they've got their guy of the future. And so if Shedeur Sanders is sitting there and the Raiders like him, I don't think having guaranteed money for Geno Smith for the next 2 years prohibits you from drafting Shedeur Sanders if you think he's going to be a great player of the future.
And let's also be real. Geno Smith's a solid quarterback. He's a serviceable quarterback, but he's not someone that I could sit there and go, he's their franchise quarterback for the future.
Well, because he's 35. He's going to be 35 years old. And you've got a coach who's going to be, and you've got a coach who's going to be the oldest coach in the history of the NFL week 1. And you got all those things at play. But I don't know how you feel, Zach. I'm a big believer because everyone's like, you can't draft a running back 6. I'm like, yes, you can. You can't draft Tedero McMillan. Yes, you can. I am a big believer of if the player you draft is good to great, you never care, A, what position, or B, what number you drafted them because you don't remember the people who you could have drafted because the guy you drafted is great. So you can draft Ashton Genty if he's great. You can draft Shedeur Sanders if he turns out to be good, and you'll never worry about it.
Well, here's what I also say. If Shedeur is off the board, then at 6, and I've done mock drafts for the last 5 weeks, and we've done these exercises, I think they have to take Genty. And the reason I say that is just because even though Brock Bowers had an unbelievable rookie season, because of the limitations of Geno Smith, I then look at Ashton Genty becoming the face and the focal point of the offense. And when I talked to Ashton back in September, I want to say, I said to him, who are the running backs that you grew up and you studied?
And he goes, Alvin Kamara and Marshawn Lynch. And Pete Carroll and Marshawn Lynch, there's a big connection there.
Well, and he breaks plays. I mean, Alvin Kamara is explosive. He's explosive. I mean, I grew up in Detroit. I grew up a Barry Sanders fan. He's my favorite athlete of all time. I'm not saying that Ashton's doing that, but like you go back and you watch the Washington State game, you go back and watch any of those games the first 7-8 weeks of the season, the amount of plays that he makes that should go for 3 or 4, that go for 74
breaking 8 tackles.
Unbelievable.
Stupid.
And then and again, does that go to the NFL? Who knows? But as a play-by-play announcer, I'm selfish and I'd like them to draft Ashton Jeter.
So you grew up as a Lions fan,
I did.
Jason Horowitz. Where are you at with their trajectory right now? Because the last 2 years have been awesome, but they're still chasing that Super Bowl.
They are, and 5 turnovers against the Commanders is detrimental, and the blown halftime lead against San Francisco is one that you'll never forget. So those are 2 big time blunders for a team that probably should have played in the Super Bowl both times. So the question is the window closed? I think the answer is no. You've got Jared Goff, and people kind of scoff at that, but Jared's been great. You've got really good receivers, good offensive line. But I think it's also to be determined how much of a loss losing both coordinators is. Ben Johnson's a guy that everyone wanted. And Aaron Glenn, yes, they gave up a lot, but they couldn't. The amount of plays they made at the end of the season with the defensive players that they had lost was pretty remarkable. So we'll see.
Let me squeeze in the Final Four, and then we'll get you out of here, Jason Horowitz. I know you're a storyline guy. I look at the storylines of this Final Four. Old guard, new guard. You got Bruce Pearl up against Todd Golden. You got Kelvin Sampson up against Sean Shire. You have Cooper Flagg, who's the best player in the tournament, but Walter Clayton Jr., who's the most exciting, in my opinion. Duke or the field, is another big one. What's the most intriguing storyline to you?
Well, it's funny. Janai Broom's health isn't, he says he's fine. We talked to him yesterday. We'll air that interview tomorrow night during the pregame.
Bruce Pearl told me he was good.
Yeah, he told me he's fine. But that pad, whatever's under his sleeve is
how
big.
Fine are you?
Yeah, is big. Now, he also came back last week and played, and we had a conversation about what he said to his parents, and we had a conversation about, he's like, I'm coming back in. They're like, all right, I guess I'm checking back in. So like he knew the moment, and he loved every part of it. But like, I think that's significant. His injury, I think, is significant. But I also think Houston's the one team that nobody's really talking about. 100%. And the fact that they've lost one time since November, and it's not like they lost one time in Conference USA or America. They lost one time in the Big 12. And I think they're good enough to win the whole thing.
I know you got to run. Last one real quickly. Jason Horowitz from Westwood One does a great job, also the voice of the Raiders. The Pete Carroll hire.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was a good hire. I know this is not going to be a hire where he's going to be here for 6-7 years. I'm looking.
He could be.
Maybe. That's tough to know when you're in the mid. He looks young.
Hey, listen, not to make things morbid. My mom passed away at 64 the year she thought she was going to retire. You never know.
Sure.
And that dude's got energy for ages. So, like, to say that Pete Carroll can't coach to 79.
Okay. You're not getting a decade out of him.
Probably not.
So
probably not. I hope I still have a decade left.
I think you're good. You have a lot of energy. I think that Pete Carroll needs to bring stability back to the Raiders. That's what I look for. What do you look for?
That energy, stability, and I think he brings a level of they brought in Josh McDaniels. The Patriots way didn't work. Then Antonio Pierce had the whole aspect of he grew up a Raiders fan and they wanted to bring the Raiders back, but there was nothing from an offensive standpoint. And then there was conflict, and Devontae's gone. I think with Pete Carroll, you bring in a guy who's a proven commodity, who knows what to at least get to where you're competing for the playoffs every year, because he did that every year in Seattle. And then from there, can you overtake Mahomes? Can you overtake Herbert? That's the next question. But at least to get back to that, we know we can win 8, 9, 10 games. That's what you're looking for.
Well, we appreciate the time. Thanks so much, Jason.
Absolutely, dude.
And that conversation with Jason Horowitz of Westwood One, and also being the voice of the Raiders on the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network for Westwood One's Radio Row, was sponsored by Ego, tool that deliver or exceed the power and performance of gas without the noise, fuss, and fumes. For any outdoor challenge, count on Ego tools to deliver the power, performance, and innovation you need. Ego, power beyond belief. Also, it's time to ask the pros, where you, the listener, gets to ask us a question, brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Simply tweet your question at INFSportsNet or at Zach Gelb using the hashtag AskThePros. Be listening later in the show. We might answer your question. Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Stu, 3 things from that conversation with Jason Horowitz. Number 1, let's start with Pete Carroll, because you are our degenerate Raider fan. Excuse me, a resident Raider fan. I should not say degenerate Raider fan. When you look at Pete Carroll, 3-year contract.
Yeah.
If I told you the over-under is 3.5 years for Pete Carroll as the coach of the Raiders, take the over.
That's right on the line. I would say over, but I'd say 4. Like
okay,
just over.
So you don't think it's going to 5?
I do not.
So you think there's a 4-year run for Pete Carroll?
Yes.
What are you hoping? If you have to give me like one word. My word was stability. So
it's a good word.
So use a different
not
word.
Stability.
If there's one word that you could kind of hope that Pete Carroll brings to the Raiders, that word is?
I would say that it's just relevant, and not relevant in the way of
Zach Gelb making jokes about them.
Exactly.
for being irrelevant.
Like, they're not irrelevant, but they're also relevant in a bad way. So I want relevance like in a good way. Relevance where they're at least like competing for, being above average. They don't even have to make the playoffs, but they have to be like in the conversation, not making fools of themselves, because that's what we see a lot from the Raiders.
So we know that the Raiders are in a division where they're looking up right now.
Yeah.
You got Mahomes, you got Andy Reid. Then you got Sean Payton, and you got Bo Nix. You got Jim Harbaugh, and you got Justin Herbert. If I tell you this is the Pete Carroll 3-year run, do you take it? Just hear me out in the 3 years. 7 wins in year number 1. Year number 2, 8-9. Year number 3, 9-8. And walks off into the sunset and then says, that's it. But no playoffs in any of those 3 years.
That's fine. I mean, I'm not,
What a low bar.
It does sound like loser energy, like, 3 years, don't make the playoffs. But honestly, if they have 3 decent years and they're not in the battle of, winning 3, 4, 5 games, like if they're getting close to 10 wins all 3 of those years, like, yeah, I'll take that right now. And you would hope that it develops into a program and then they can find someone to replace them that'll kind of carry the torch, if you will.
So in the last 22 years, so 23 years ago, they lost in the Super Bowl to Tampa Bay, John Gruden, right? And that was a disaster for them. So if I quickly just did that math right, it's been 22 years, 23 years since that Super Bowl, but 22 seasons played.
Yep.
They've made the playoffs twice.
0-2 in the playoffs.
12-4 lost in the wild card round, but that was the year Derek Carr got hurt, right?
Yes.
And then 10-7, and they lost to Cincinnati.
Yes.
Where they were driving and had a chance to go win the game on the road in Cincinnati. Cincinnati goes on to the Super Bowl. The Raiders in that stretch, 4-12, 5-11, 4-12, 2-14, 4-12. Stu may die by the end of this. 5-11, 5-11, 8-8, 8-8, 4-12, 4-12, 3-13, 7-9, 12-4, 6-10, 4-12, 7-9, 8-8, 10-7, 6-11, 8-9, and 4-13.
Yeah.
I could see, even though that's an incredibly low bar, where it's only, be improving from 4 to 7 if they did it in year 1, because they only had 4 wins last year. If I only then tell you there's 2 more years of Pete Carroll and he only goes 1 win improvement each year, 8 and 9, it would, outside of the 2 years they make the playoffs, put him some of the best years of the Raiders in the last 22 years.
You're
That's
not wrong.
Sad.
It's sad, but it's not wrong. That's just how it's been, and they keep having these coaches where they have them for a couple of years and then they get rid of them because they bottom out.
Do they frustrate you anymore? Or are you
No,
just
I'm
numb to it?
I'm numb to it.
Are you really?
I'm numb to it, yeah.
So when they get blown out in one of these games, you're not yelling and kicking and screaming?
That's not true. I am, but it's probably more subdued than it was when I was at least younger, and I thought that they had much more higher hope than they really do.
I maybe need to get into cahoots with your girlfriend and see if that's a valid, fair, truthful scouting report of what Stu just kind of gave us. I wonder what her perspective is of what you're like watching a Raiders game.
I think it would be that. I think I get more frustrated. I know you're going to hate that. I get more frustrated with the soccer. The soccer is what really puts me over the top.
That's a new love.
And the Yankees probably are right after that.
Yeah, because the Yankees are good.
Yeah.
They just, since 2009, haven't won a World Series.
They haven't done anything. By their standards, they haven't done anything. So.
All right, the final part of that. Do you agree that it feels that either Ashton Genty or Shedeur Sanders will be the pick at 6 for the Raiders?
Genty, yes. I don't think Shedeur is going to be the guy, even if he's there. Mm-hmm. I have a feeling that even if the Giants do not take him at 3,
someone will trade up.
No, I think they'll just not take a quarter. I
Okay.
think the Geno stuff yesterday, the extension yesterday, I just have a hunch, a gut feeling that they're not going to go with a quarterback.
I think those are the two players. Now, I don't know if Shedeur will be there. So if Shedor's not there, then they're going with Genti.
Yeah.
But I think if I'm running the Raiders, priority one would be Shedeur. And then if it's not Shedeur, it would be Ashton Genti. And quite frankly, if I had to give you a third, and I don't think he'll be there because I think he'll go to the Jaguars, then maybe a Mason Graham. But you also just got Christian Wilkins. Mad Max is coming on back on the contract extension. But I think the two offensive players they need to consider, Shedeur, Ashton Genti, and then if not, it needs to be a defensive player. And that defensive player, the first one I would think of that would be in reach potentially there, could be there, would be Mason Graham. But I'd be very surprised if you told me I got two guesses for the Raiders, if it's not either Shedeur Sanders or if it's Ashton Genti, and I'm leaning now that it is Ashton Genti. All righty, 15 past the hour. Zach Gelb here with you on the Infinity Sports Network. We are coming to you live from the Convention Center in San Antonio for Westwood One's coverage of the Final Four. We will take a break. We'll do a news brief when we come on back. Chris Mack still going to join us coming up in a half hour from now, and then a big guest coming up at 4:20 p.m. Central today, 5:20 p.m. Eastern, and 2:20 p.m. Pacific. I sound like a local program guide giving out all those times. Sometimes what they used to play on my Sirius show when they would not have us airing live in the 6 to 10 p.m. Eastern time slot. We'll have Alabama head coach Nate Oats. So a whole lot more to do coming on back from San Antonio after these short messages.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. "45 seconds remaining. "30 seconds remaining. "15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Time for your daily news brief. We get you caught up on the rumors, reports, and reconnaissance from the day in sports.
Werner is the official ladder of NCAA March Madness and the official ladder of construction professionals everywhere. Conquer new heights with Werner, available nationally at the Home Depot. News brief time. Let's start it off with Diana Rossini and Chase Daniel, which, by the way, I think is my least favorite social media podcast. The actual podcast may be good, but the social media clips, I just sound as if it feels like if Chase Daniel did an edible before this, because every time Diana Rossini says something, he thinks it's the most like earth-shattering news, and he can never be understanding of what it was actually being said by Diana Rossini. He's like, what? Huh? You sure? How about that? Oh, it drives me nuts. So let's listen up to the next installment of Diana Rossini and Chase Daniel, this time talking about the Tush Push on the Scoop City podcast, which I'm a big fan of, if you can't tell.
What is the number one reason you can say that the Tush Push will probably be banned in 2025?
Roger Goodell does not like the play. He thinks it's ugly. He doesn't think it's a football play. Look, Sean Payton stood up. He's for the Tush Push. He said, there's a better chance of us getting in a car wreck on the drive to the link than I believe it is for these players to be injured in the Tush Push.
He said that.
The fact that this was tabled tells me that they're going to ban the Tush Push.
This year.
They're going to find a way to get it out of football.
Why?
Some of them want to be in line with Roger Goodell. I think some believe it's an ugly play. And I think whether or not they'll admit it or not, if you can't beat it, ban it.
Well, that is so freaking soft, Diana.
It's soft, but it's the reality.
It's because the Eagles won the freaking Super Bowl.
Jealousy, baby.
Oh my gosh.
It's almost like from like, dude, where's my car? What? Dude, where's my car? What? Oh, that's so soft. Oh. Ugh. Chase Daniel, just on this podcast, he's fine talking football. But on this podcast, he is insufferable, and it seems as if he had like 10 joints every time before he goes and records this Scoop City podcast. Let's go to Liam Cohen, Duval, Sirius XM NFL Radio, and how they're helping Trevor Lawrence.
Really, we're diving into his footwork, some of those mechanics, and then obviously once we get into the building, some of the football aspects, right? The formations, the motions, the shifts. But for us to help him truly, also from a schematic standpoint, man, we've got to be able to run the football a little bit better, right? Give him some help from that standpoint, take a little pressure off, while also playing some good, sound, fundamental, hard defense on the other side of the ball to be able to, ultimately get the best out of our quarterback. We got to be able to help.
He got a little Gruden in him there when he started to go play some sound, fundamental football, man. All right? He got a little Chucky there with John Gruden. I think John Gruden is now back to his stock booming, Stu. So he linked up with Barstool. He's doing these unboxings. when he got canceled, I have a huge John Gruden bobblehead from a sponsorship that I used to have with Corona, and that thing could have sold for a few thousand. Then when the emails and all that stuff came out, the price went. Chase Daniels probably like, when he hears those sound effects. What just exploded? Oh, that's weak. But anyway, I think the price now on that Chucky bobblehead is going on up, so maybe I'm going to go put that on Facebook Marketplace or something and sell it. But there is Liam Cohen of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Let's go to Arthur Blank on the NFL Network. He discussed his meeting with Kirk Cousins, as Kirk Cousins is the backup quarterback, paid a lot of money by the Atlanta Falcons, but clearly he wants to be a starting quarterback in this league once again.
I think he made it clear that, in his best interest would be to have an opportunity to, test free agency, and I understood why. He also understands that we have a contract and we've paid him a great deal of money. He understands that. So he understood our position as well.
Yeah, I kind of understand it. If you're the Falcons, you don't want to just give him away for nothing. You know that Michael Penix Jr. is your guy. There is some maybe injury concerns, though, with Michael Penix Jr., and you're not just going to give Kirk away for free. And I think you're trying to wait till you get a leverage situation. And, is it Cleveland? That would be probably my best guess. Could someone maybe get hurt, like with what happened to Minnesota years ago, where it was, who was the quarterback? Teddy Bridgewater got hurt, and then it was Sam Bradford that got traded for a first-round pick for somehow from the Philadelphia Eagles to the Minnesota Vikings. So maybe you're waiting for one of those situations where a team ends up getting desperate. Let's go to Dan Campbell. Can Aaron Glenn turn the Jets around? Probably not, but let's hear.
You got to be able to do what you need to do to build it from the ground up. AG's been around some phenomenal coaches, and I'm not talking about me. That's not Bill Parcells, Sean Payton. This guy gets it. He's been around the best at building and sustaining. So you need a leader, man. You need a leader, and you need a guy who can hold people accountable, has a vision for where you want to go, and allow him to do that. And he's got every bit of that. And so as long as he's got the support, AG will turn that thing around. There's no question, man. He's an unbelievable leader. He's an even better person, and he's the type of guy that makes people want to rally around him. He's going to bring the right type of people around him. He's already done it with the coaches, and he'll bring the right kind of players. Look, if he can't, nobody can. That's my opinion. And
that's the big thing. And Dan Campbell basically said it. You got to allow him to do his job. And that is, we hear what's said about Woody Johnson with him being a meddling owner. Let's go to Todd Golden on building this roster with the Florida Gators.
After the first year, we were very active, in the transfer portal, and we were fortunate enough to get Walter Clayton, to get Zion Pullen, Tyree Samuel, Micah Hand-Lockton specifically. Great job keeping our nucleus, and then obviously just the addition of Elijah, Ruben and Sam, that group. You just really finished this team, and we have great guys that are unselfish, that enjoy playing together. I think our staff's done a good job defining roles so everybody understands what their job is to help us win.
And then let's go from Todd Golden to a man that kind of shaped Todd Golden. That's Bruce Pearl, who used to coach him. And also, Todd Golden did coach underneath Bruce Pearl on, here's Bruce Pearl making the Final Four once again at Auburn.
This is uncharted waters for Auburn men's basketball. We had some great moments in our history, great coaches, Sonny Smith and Cliff Ellis, great players, Charles Barkley and Chuck Person and several others, but no real sustained great success. And here we are at the Final Four.
And he's done a wonderful job, both him and Kelvin Sampson, doing what they have done at Auburn and also Houston, respectively. Talking about Kelvin Sampson, so respected here at the Final Four. Here's Kelvin Sampson on his reasons for their success with the Cougars.
There's one sign that you'll see a lot in our building. It just says culture. It's how you do anything is how you do everything, right? Being on time, treating people with respect, having the right attitude every day, giving great effort every day in whatever it is you're asked to do. And our kids are pretty good at that.
And then let's go to John Shire, Duke legend, and now is their head basketball coach, has some high praise for Kelvin Sampson.
For me, year one when I got the coaching job at Duke, you're trying to figure out who to scrimmage and what you can do. And we sought out scrimmaging Houston. And that was the respect that I had for Coach Sampson, Houston's program, what they stand for. And, to be here competing against them, it's an honor.
And then finally, last one, we go to another college basketball coach who I really like, and he just walked away from the game in the middle of the season. That's Jim Larinaga. He was on the Coach L show. You know what? I'm on this station every week with Hochman and Crowder. This is called the Coach L show with Hochman and Crowder. When I'm on with them, they should call it the Zach Gelb show with Hochman and Crowder. I do a weekly with them each and every week. So I'm going to bring this up to those two knuckleheads next time I go on. I'm going to smack them around. But Stu, have you had a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, I would imagine, in your life?
Yes, of course. I have had many, not as many as I did when I was, younger, but I've had many peanut butter and jelly sandwiches.
You know Hickey has a peanut butter and jelly sandwich every day.
If
not two.
It's wild. I can't imagine in your 30s doing that.
Well, Ryan Hot Take Hickey probably, as Stu probably has sometimes a sports stroke when watching the Raiders. This is what probably Ryan Hickey was having, a peanut butter stroke, when he heard this audio from Coach L the other day on the Coach L show with Hochman and Crowder.
I have never had a peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
How's that possible?
I'll have a jelly sandwich.
What?
I used to love Reese's peanut butter cups. And I love peanut butter with chocolate, but I've never had a peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
Coach, it's almost impossible to go through life without having a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Even as a kid, you never had peanut butter and jelly?
No, not one time. I told you, I had a bite of one.
Lord.
I had a bite once, and no, not for me. Never had another one.
Lord, the Reese's peanut butter cups, they just came out with peanut butter and jelly.
No way.
Reese's peanut butter cups. Yeah, it just came out like a couple of weeks ago.
That will fail. There's no way you're going to eat peanut butter and jelly and chocolate. Come on.
So hot take here, peanut butter and chocolate, I love. Peanut butter, I love. When I was a kid, I would just have on, I think it was multi-grain bread. My mom did not like serving me white bread, but just peanut butter. I was not a fan of peanut butter and jelly together. Like, I've had a peanut butter and jelly sandwich before, but I'm more of just a strictly peanut butter guy on the sandwich. All right, we'll take a break. That's a news brief. It is Zach Gelb Show from Westwood One's Radio Row. We will come on back. Chris Mack is going to join us on set. Let's send the back to our New York City headquarters first. Here is the Ackman, Rich Ackerman.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
All right, there's Zach. Plenty of eyes on Colorado today for their pro day. Shedeur Sanders throwing Heisman Trophy winner Travis Hunter and their coach Deion Sanders couldn't stop singing both praises.
Shedeur's been doing it year after year after year after year. Shedeur has led college football in this. Travis, ain't nobody like Travis. So the surest bets in this draft, I'm not a betting man. I'm a godly man. But the surest bets in this draft are those two young men. And I just started stabbing when I said that. Did I?
Oh, you did?
All right. Back drop. Let's go.
Meanwhile, Grizzlies' Ja Morant hit with a $75,000 fine by the NBA. This after his finger gun gesture in back-to-back games. Now, keep in mind, Morant suspended twice in 2023 for incidents with real weapons. Plenty of afternoon baseball. You got the Red Sox in front of the Cardinals, 8-6. They're in the seventh inning. Trevor Story, a 3-run shot. Cubs looking to hand the Padres their first loss of the season, a 3-1 advantage, top of the eighth at Wrigley. Pete Alonso, a 2-run blast. Mets lead the Blue Jays 2-0 there in the fifth. A's and Rockies, they're even at 1 in the second. Yankees and Pirates, no score. That's in the second inning. There was one game that went final as well as the Tigers erased the White Sox 7-4. I'm Marco Belletti.
This is the Infinity Sports Network. Check out our new and improved website at infinitysportsnet.com. That's infinitysportsnet.com.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 4 minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
This is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
Alrighty, rocking and rolling. We continue day number 2, Westwood One's coverage of the NCAA tournament, the Final Four on Radio Row. It is the Zach Gelb Show, coast to coast on the Infinity Sports Network. And now joining us is the head men's basketball coach at the College of Charleston. And that, of course, is Chris Mack here with us. Coach, appreciate the time. How you been?
I've been great. Zach, thanks for having me.
Well, I appreciate you coming on. So here at the Final Four, I'm going to start with Florida, because they were the team going into this tournament that I thought was playing the best basketball, even though I thought Duke was the best team. How do you try to slow down someone like Walter Clayton Jr. when even when he's not on, there's moments at the end where he just pops off and takes over a game?
He's been amazing. We actually scrimmaged Florida in our first behind closed doors scrimmage this year. It was our first taste of playing somebody different. And so we traveled down to Gainesville and we played them. And first of all, their size is unlike anything I've really ever seen. Warm ups that they look like an NBA team. I don't think Walter played that hard against us in that day, and they absolutely steamrolled us. We got back on the bus with our head, in our hands and trying to figure out, like, are we this bad or are they that, incredible? And turned out to be the latter. We felt like when we left there, we were looking at a top 5, top 10 type team. They've proved it all year long. And just to see his play down the stretch in the biggest of big moments, I mean, they're down 10 with 3.5, 4 minutes to go against Texas Tech, and to be able to win that game in the manner in which they did, they're special. They are absolutely special. They're hard to keep off the glass. They come at you in waves, and they've got a killer when the game's on the line.
Now, on the flip side, you have Bruce Pearl, right, who's been around forever. What he's done at Auburn has been sensational. Yep. In 2009, he's coaching Todd Golden in the Maccabi games. Then you have Bruce Pearl coaching with Todd Golden when he first got to Auburn. I know relationships are basketball, and that's a big part of this game. But does it give one coach an advantage over the other when both are so familiar with each other?
I think that probably depends on, the type of players they have and how much scouting they do. Some teams are just really more hell-bent on worrying about themselves rather than getting into all the weeds of what an opponent does, especially when you have to turn the page in a quick turnaround from Saturday to Monday. Of course, these guys have ample time to prepare for one another. I don't think there's necessarily an advantage in terms of, one guy knowing a little bit more or having a little bit of an edge versus the other. It's going to be a great game. Both teams have high-level athletes, have systems they really believe in, and so I think it's going to be a great game. I do give the edge to Florida just because, again, I go back to Walter Clayton. I think he's a little bit more reliable than Pettiford, a guy that's a freshman, and so they're both really good, and I wouldn't be surprised if either one of them advanced.
We know that Kelvin Sampson had to spend a few years away from the game. Also, Bruce Pearl as well, right? You had to spend a few years away before getting this job at the College of Charleston. Just how do you, when you get that next opportunity, kind of reinvent yourself and make the most out of the opportunity?
Well, I think it's a matter of, how did I spend the time away? And so, you learn different things. When you're actually coaching your team and you're in it day to day, you're really in a cave with you, your assistants, and your team. Maybe from time to time, you'll call some colleagues and ask for advice, but you're so hunkered down with your team that you don't really have an opportunity to really study others and maybe take in a practice or two. I spent a lot of time around Kelvin Sampson in my 2 years away. I spent at least 3 trips down there just sort of listening and following their defensive identity and how he carves that day in, day out, how he coaches his best player, his point guard, things that, I think good coaches sort of steal from everybody a little bit and try to make it how they see it for their program. And so that time away, that was the time that I feel like I got to branch out and sort of see some different things that maybe I would apply once I got back into it.
Chris Mack here with us. Kelvin Sampson. So I went to Temple University, so I saw what he did in the American Athletic Conference. And then he goes to the Big 12. It's weird to call Houston a dynasty because they haven't won a national championship yet. And what we do, it's kind of, all right, dynasties and the NFL and basketball, it's 3 championships. But what he's been able to do and take this level of Houston to this new standard, multiple conferences, tons of years of success. It's just hats off to him. Remarkable.
Oh, it's amazing. I mean, people, probably realize that follow college basketball. I mean, Houston was a wreck of a program when he took over. Yeah. I don't think it was a very desirable job. He goes to the American, he absolutely kills it. And I think there was a little bit of skepticism. Okay, we'll see what happens when he gets to the Big 12. And they've gotten better. They've actually gotten better. And I don't think that he's done it necessarily with household names. From time to time, he'll get a 5-star, but for the most part, he's getting these obscure guys out of high school, that are long, that have potential, and he gets them to play so gosh darn hard that when you watch a Houston team, you know what you're getting. And I think this year, with his guards, whether it's Sharp, whether it's LJ Cryer, whether it's the transfer point guard from Oklahoma. He's got some dudes that are capable of scoring, and obviously he's going to need that on Saturday.
How do you find a way to slow down Duke and be in it in the final few minutes to have your chance to go to the championship game on Monday?
It's a tough ask. You know, they've been sensational here, especially the last month of the season. You know, I think it's so underrated how difficult it is for teams to score around the basket. You know, so much attention is given to Cooper Flagg, and rightfully so, how talented he is on both ends of the floor. But, you know, Mowich, I mean, what he does around the rim and you know, it's so hard to score too around the basket that the pressure that Duke can apply on the perimeter overwhelms you. And so Houston's got to do what they do best, and that is defend. And then they got to figure out a way that maybe they can get some turnovers. Maybe they can offensive rebound against those guys and get some stickbacks. Maybe they can get a Cooper Flagg in foul trouble. But again, that's a big ask, and that's going to be a really difficult challenge for the Houston Cougars. But if anybody's up to it, you know, what he's done and the times where they've played, you know, teams like a Kansas on the road and come away with a victory, you know, show that they have some credibility to do so.
Outside of the campus that you're currently on just being absolutely beautiful, what stood out to you this year, looking back at year number one at the College of Charleston?
Well, I would say that, you know, it was chaos in the very beginning. I think most coaches, when they go from, you know, one job to another, they generally bring their entire coaching staff. You know, I was on the beaches of Florida, not coaching. And so while I had a bunch of colleagues and guys that I thought of that if I were to be back into it, that I'd pick up for the staff, I still hadn't been with those guys in a couple of years. And so that was a huge challenge. You're trying to assemble a roster, you're trying to assemble a coaching staff, and you're trying to do it with some type of continuity. I think a year from, you know, a couple of days ago, we now have stability with our coaching staff. We know what we're about. So again, I think the transfer portal teams are going to be very, very, you know, fluid from year to year. There's going to be a lot of change, but to have stability with your coaches and sort of know what we're about, I think gives us a leg up. And we had a really good year, but you know, we want to win a championship. We want to play in the tournament, and we intend to do so.
Yeah, I always say about your university now, you know, I saw Jeff Goodman when Pat Kelsey was there doing a stroll, and it was like an unbelievable, really nice piece. I go, if that campus can make Jeff Goodman look good, man, it must be a real beautiful campus.
It is. I mean, it's one block off of King Street, which if anybody's been there is the heartbeat of Charleston, you know, from restaurants to open air bars to high end shopping. I mean, just tourists everywhere, bachelor parties, bachelorette parties. And then, you know, you've got beaches in any direction, 10 minutes away. It's just weather year round. It's a great place to be a college student. It's a great place to be a basketball coach. And, you know, we're trying to combine, you know, what we do well as a staff with what Charleston brings to the table, and hopes that we can have a team that CAA champions.
There's more change than ever now in college basketball, players and coaches, right? You've been to Xavier, you've been to Louisville, and we know what you've been able to do. When you're at your current school, people are always going to throw your name, and it's a credit to what you do, in the mix for other jobs that are perceived to be bigger. You know, just this morning, I'm seeing your name get floated out there for Texas A&M. Just how do you address that with your players? Because we've seen in this tournament, right, Will Wade do it one way, Kevin Willard do it another way, and there's really no right answer, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't think there is a right answer. And, you know, sometimes things that get talked about, you know, publicly or in the media aren't necessarily true. And so it's hard to dispel, you know, rumors. You know, I feel great about being at Charleston. You know, I'm not going to Texas A&M. You know, it's never been a consideration. You know, I get flattered, as any coach would, when opportunities, you know, come around, but they have to be right for me and my family. If that time, you know, ever came where I felt that, you know, there was a better opportunity for our family, then I'd address it with our team. But, you know, right now I have no intention of being anywhere else but Charleston. And Texas A&M, you know, they've got a great program. They're SEC. It's high level, but it's not for me, and it's not the fit that I would want for my family at this time.
Right now, entering this 2025 season, I know it's early. Where do you think you're at as a basketball coach?
I think you're always evolving. I think that the portal has made it wild. You know, this time of year, I don't think it really changes anything when you actually get your guys and you get them in summer school, June and July. You're certainly building towards, you know, the season. When you're out there coaching your players, when you're watching film with them, all the things that we do, every coach does on a daily basis, road trips, being together, bonding, fighting for a championship together. None of that stuff changes. What changes is the spring and just the roster volatility and being able to be accepting of that, adapted to that, has allowed me, to have peace of mind with that, and it's always been a relationship business, how you develop relationships with the student athletes that you're coaching, and you can still have that, but it is very, very different. It's not as long lasting at times. It's a little bit more transactional. I don't necessarily think it's great for the game, but it is what it is. And, again, we're going to try to do the best job that we can for our student athletes. And I'm always going to be grounded in that as a coach.
Well, last thing I'll ask you, Chris Mack. So I understand, right? Xavier fans obviously wanted to keep Sean Miller. When I look at it from afar, I totally get why he elected to go to Texas. I don't crush him for it whatsoever. But give me a thought or two about Sean Miller going to Texas and then Richard Pitino taking over with Xavier.
Yeah, I mean, Sean's an elite level coach, elite. And I know that he's always wanted to get to a Final Four. And I'm of the belief that Xavier and Texas, can get to a Final Four. A lot of things have to happen, have to be put in place. I think I can't speak for Sean, why he made that jump. Every coach's decision-making process is different. But I do know that Texas is going to be really happy with the coach they have. He's an ass kicker. He is truly one of the best coaches in the game. He taught me a lot. And at the same time, who Xavier's replacing Sean with is a terrific coach in his own right. I think as a young guy in the Big Ten, he took some lumps at a school that isn't necessarily a Big Ten contender every year, let's be honest. I think he learned a lot. He went to a place that has a very passionate fan base in New Mexico. He crushed it there. And so I think he's young. I think he's energetic. I think he'll bring a passion, to the people of Cincinnati and Xavier University in particular. And so I wish him well. It's my alma mater. It's where I played. Not too well because I want to be the all-time winningest coach for a long time. And, he's got a few years to get there.
Well, we talk about things that are out there, right? And who knows if they're true or not. Were there any legs to some of the rumors of maybe you going back there?
I mean, again, we were in consideration. We considered it as a family. Again, Charleston's such a special place. I don't think people understand until they actually put their feet on the ground there and what our fans, have done for the program, the loyalty they've showed. So again, for us, Xavier's a great place and it'll always be home for me.
Sure.
But Charleston has really become a special place and our sort of home away from home. So I'm very happy where I'm at. And I think Xavier's in a good spot with Coach Pitino.
Well, Coach, we really appreciate the time. Thanks so much for stopping by.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
So there you go. Chris Mack joining us live on the show, the head basketball coach at Charleston, formerly of Xavier and Louisville. And he made it clear he has no interest in going to Texas A&M, with that being speculated in the last 24 hours. Also, let me tell you to stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. Indeed's sponsored jobs features and helps you stand out and hire fast. Start at Indeed.com/credit. Also, Werner is the official ladder of NCAA March Madness and the official ladder of construction professionals everywhere. Conquer new heights with Werner, available nationally at Lowe's. Zach Gelb here with you. Westwood One's coverage of the NCAA Final Four is brought to you, obviously, with our fine folks at Westwood One. We will take a break. We'll come on back. We'll do a little onside, offside on a Friday. Nate Oats is going to join us 25 minutes from now. We'll give you some picks before we go. And we also want to give a public on-air thank you to our guy Charlie for setting up this entire thing and continuing to book guest after guest after guest and great coaches that you've heard all through the last 2 days. Back with more from San Antonio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 4 minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond. He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Alrighty, hour number 3 of our radio program. That's right, it is the Zach Gelb Show, live in San Antonio on Westwood One's Radio Row for the Final Four. They have convinced me to stick around here for the games on Saturday, and then I'll be back Monday. Monday's going to be an interesting travel day, folks. I have a 7:05 a.m. Central Time flight, which is 8:05 a.m. Central Time. Now, I am my preference is to be on an aisle on a plane. On the way down here, I had to sit in a window seat. The last time I had to sit in a window seat was last year when we were going to the Final Four to Phoenix. The window seat, Stu, is actually not as bad as I recalled it, especially if you have an early morning flight. You put your head on the side of the plane. Hopefully the plane doesn't bust on open like we've seen with some of these videos on, what is it, those 739 planes or whatever they are, I think are the numbers. And hopefully you get there from point A to point B all and well. But the one thing that I am dreading and the one thing that I just hate whenever I have to fly is if you have to take a middle seat. Now, the last time I had to take a middle seat was when my flight got canceled coming back from Kansas City from the NFL draft, where 15 of our coworkers got back, no problem. My flight, they make me sit in the airport for 7 to 9 hours, and they go, oh, it's canceled. I had to spend an extra night in Kansas City. I like Kansas City. I was there for 3 days, though, so I didn't need to be there for a fourth day. And I had Ranger playoff tickets, and those cost a pretty penny, and I ended up having to give someone at the station a deal because I just had to get rid of them at the last second. So I had a connecting flight back from Kansas City, originally direct, but I wanted to get out there the next day. So it was a connecting flight. I think I landed in Detroit, and it was Detroit back to New York, which is only 2 hours. Not that bad. And I was in the middle. Well, because, and I appreciate the folks at the National Association of Basketball Coaches, they asked me to MC their big award breakfast that comes your way in San Antonio on Sunday. So I'm very appreciative they asked me to do that. And that means I'm going to be sticking around here till Sunday. They got me into the game on Saturday, so I'll see Duke go up against Houston and then Florida go up against Auburn. When I had to reschedule the flight, though, from Saturday morning, which had a nice comfy aisle seat, to then Monday morning, there was only middle seats available. So now I'm in a middle seat for, I think it's 4 hours and 30 minutes on the way back from San Antonio. Now, if this was Zach Gelb 3-4 years ago, Zach Gelb in a middle seat would be very uncomfortable. I don't think I'm going to be so comfortable, but I don't think it's going to be as bad as how much weight I used to carry around all those years ago. So I'm dreading the middle seat here, Stuart.
Yeah, that could be tough, and hopefully there's not a lot of big fellas, former basketball players.
Like how you had on your flight down at the 7-foot
like the guy next to me was ginormous. Actually, I had a aisle seat for tomorrow morning, and I moved it to a window seat.
Ooh.
Because I figured I'm probably only going to sleep 4 hours tonight. I might as well get the window seat in.
Especially how much Stu parties here.
Oh, no.
Let me tell you, I thought this was a work trip. Stu having himself a lot of fun these last 2 nights. I had to say, calm down there, Tiger. You got to get up tomorrow. You got to work. I don't have to pick Stu up out of the Riverwalk.
Yeah, that would not have been a good ending of our trip, but yeah, I will probably sleep on the plane early tomorrow morning, hopefully.
Okay. I really hope there's a petite human being sitting next to me, and then I make them feel bad for me being large, and they'll be like, oh, I'll give you my aisle or I'll give you my window. That's what I'm going to hope. Maybe I'll wear a fat suit heading onto the plane so I could look a lot bigger, and then maybe they go, okay, we don't want this person sitting in the middle. So that's the way that all did play on out. Now, I know a lot of people are probably listening. They're like, play the small violin for Gelb. Well, he has to stay in San Antonio and go to the Final Four and then go MC some breakfast. But, Monday morning is going to be an adventure. I land at Newark at noon, and then I'll bolt right to the New York City studios, and we'll do the show. So I know some people are questioning my energy today.
I saw that.
Yeah. You know what? Whenever you do these shows on remote, and I'm in one of these convention centers and there's other shows, and I just know I'm so loud, I kind of sometimes feel a little insecure or maybe a little bit naked where I'm like, I don't want people to be looking back and be like, there's that bloviating national jackass who's so loud and so boisterous. So not that I try to tone down the energy, but it's just one of those spots where I'm not in my happy place, my comfort zone of being in the studio. So that's kind of what that's been. But Monday, I will probably be sleeping in between breaks, if I'm being honest, with how little sleep I'm going to get coming up on Sunday night into Monday morning, where I have to get up early for the flight. Anyway, Nate Oats is going to stop by in 15 minutes from now, the head basketball coach at Alabama. But without further ado, and I'm not talking about Freddie Adu, it's time to get to a little onside offside on this Friday. Ryan Botcher, hit it.
Zach's taking on the most polarizing issues in sports. Which side of the line of scrimmage will he end up on?
Offside. Defense number 69.
It's Onsides, Offsides with Zach Gelb.
Alrighty, Stuart, what do we got cooking here on Onside Offside?
All right, so the Drama Dallas Choking Cowboys, as you like to call them, they have found a new backup for Dak Prescott. Trey Lance is gone. He has signed with the Chargers. And yesterday, the Cowboys, they acquired Joe Milton in a 7th-round pick from your Patriots in exchange for a 5th-rounder. Now, Milton last year was a 6th-round pick. Looked pretty good in New England's Week 18 matchup against the Bills. As you remember, he completed 22 of 29 for 241 yards.
Bleep him.
Yeah.
Hey, he cost me definitely getting Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter. Now he's no longer on the team.
Yeah.
F him.
You just got one good start out of him. 240 yards, a passing touchdown, and a rushing touchdown as well in that Week 18 game. Onsides, offsides, the Patriots should have gotten more than just that 5th-round pick that they got for Milton.
So my roommate in college is a crazy Patriot fan. And he is just ridiculous with the takes here. He texted me right away at 9:19 a.m. in the morning when this trade did go down. What a horrible trade. Who is our backup? Josh Dobbs, and he sent the puking emoji. He goes, I just think Drake May is going to get hurt at some point. I want a competent backup, not Josh Dobbs. And he just kept on going and going and going. And I said, Dimitri, I love you. You're a phenomenal roommate. You're a good friend of mine. I can't lose my mind over a guy in Joe Milton that all I've been told is about his potential and how great he was supposed to be in college and how great he's supposed to be in the NFL. Joe Milton is a backup. Joe Milton is a very nice Corvette that's in the driveway, but then when you get closer and closer and closer, you see that there's about 2 tires on the Corvette. The rear view mirror is broken off, and the windshield is just smashed in, and there's no wiper fluid as well, and it's raining. That's what Joe Milton is. He looks the part, but when you ask him to continuously to succeed, he's not able to do it. So am I going to sit here and lose my mind over the Patriots swapping basically a 5th and a 7th? You know, the Pats getting a 5th and the Cowboys getting a 7th over a backup quarterback? Oh, stop. Stop. It was the same dopes who also told me, how did Bill Belichick not get more for Jimmy G? What happened to Jimmy G? He sucked. I know he got to a Super Bowl, but Jimmy G, he was made out of glass. And that's why he's now sitting on his ass as a backup in this league. So the Patriots should have gotten more than they did for Milton. I would have personally kept him as the backup, to be clear. I would have been fine with that. But do I think that they got robbed? The Cowboys, what are they bringing Joe Milton in to be? A backup. I know all you hot take artists and everything are going to be like, oh, here comes Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott is going to get benched, and Joe Milton's going to be a starting quarterback. Give me a break. The Patriots should have gotten more than they did for Milton. Offside.
Offside.
Next question.
All right, the Cardinals, they made Trey McBride the highest paid tight end in NFL history yesterday, giving him a 4-year extension worth $76 million, with $43 million of that guaranteed. Now, the average annual value is $19 million per year, and that tops Travis Kelce's previous record, which was $17.125 million per season. Onsides, offsides, if you're building an NFL team, you'd rather spend big money on a tight end opposed to a running back.
I'm actually going on sides for this one because, A, it's a pass-heavy league. Also, if it's a traditional tight end and the way that the tight end position is supposed to be played, they can maul people in the trenches, and now a lot of tight ends are also used as slot receivers as well. I think the wide receiver position / tight end position is more important than the running back position where, yes, hey, Saquon Barkley could go to your team and could pop off. Derrick Henry could go to your team and pop off. But there's still a lot of teams that have been successful in the last 20 years of football that have won championships with running back by committees. Eagles' first Super Bowl, running back by committee. Patriots, all their Super Bowls, running back by committee. There are a lot of teams that go running back by committee that end up winning a championship. So I think it's more important to have in how much we now ask the quarterback to throw the football a stud wide receiver / tight end. I know this question is only about the tight end position. I still think it's more valuable than a running back. So if you're building an NFL team, you'd rather spend big money on a tight end opposed to a running back on sides.
All right, in each of the last 2 seasons, the Chiefs have played on Christmas Day. Last year against the Steelers and the year before against my Raiders. Well, now according to...
You guys won that game.
We did, yeah, for once. So now according to Nate Taylor and Daniel Popper of The Athletic, the Chiefs have asked the NFL to make them a fixture on Christmas Day.
Oh, stop it.
Similar to how the Cowboys and Lions are staples of Thanksgiving Day. Onside to offsides, it would be a good idea to have Mahomes and the Chiefs on every Christmas.
And you know what? I want Beyonce to join me every Christmas Day as well to watch the games. Why do they need to get Christmas Day? I understand people will say, oh, well, the Lions get Thanksgiving and the Cowboys get Thanksgiving. I would rotate them in. I don't think they need it. Like most years, they'll probably schedule them as long as Mahomes is there because he's the biggest draw in the NFL. But do we need to go out of our way to basically genuflect to the Chiefs and just give the Chiefs their own day? No, I wouldn't lock yourself in on one team on a particular part of the schedule each and every year. That is not something that's already rooted in tradition. So it would be a good idea to have Mahomes and the Chiefs on every Christmas. Maybe I'll be the Grinch here. I'm going offside.
Offside. With Geno Smith extending his contract for 2 more seasons with the Raiders, questions remain if the Silver and Black should use the 6th overall pick on Shedeur Sanders if he is there when they're on the clock. Well, according to Vinny Bonsignor of the Las Vegas Review-Journal, this opens the door for the Raiders drafting a quarterback in the middle of the draft to develop, and he believes that Alabama's Jalen Milroe makes the most sense. Onside to offsides, if the Raiders don't draft Shedeur at 6, they should draft a quarterback in either the 2nd, 3rd, or 4th round.
I'm going to say offside, and here is why. I think if Shedeur is there at 6, they should take him. In the 2nd round, I don't love any of the quarterbacks in this draft class. If it's the 3rd or the 4th round, I'd be open to it. But if I'm the Raiders, I'm either taking a quarterback at 6 or I'm not taking one until the 3rd round. Now, if a Jackson Dart is still there, I think Jalen Milroe will be there. I don't believe Jalen Milroe's going in the 2nd round. There's just too much inconsistency with him. You know, Dylan Gabriel, he's not going in the first 2 rounds. I don't believe if you're not taking one at 6, and that would mean Shedeur is not off the board or the Raiders are just not going to take Shedeur, then there's probably not going to be a guy good enough where you're fine with him at 2, and then guys could start to fall where you then take him in the 3rd or the 4th round. So just because of the 2nd round in there, I'm going to go offside in answering this question very particularly.
Offside. According to Shams, there is tension.
You Shams or Shams?
Shams.
Okay. I go Shams Sharania.
Yeah.
Shams
You might be
Sharania?
right. Yeah, it might be Shams.
Yeah, it's fine. We all say weird things. It happens.
So according to Shams, there is tension between the Sixers and Joel Embiid for how they handled his injury this season.
Enough of the Sixers and enough of Joel Embiid. Honestly, this may be the last time we talk about the Sixers and Joel Embiid until they actually do something. They are insufferable.
So Shams said, quote, the team believed that Embiid needed to play at some points of the season, that he needed to get his conditioning right, playing and getting better that way, but Embiid felt that he needed surgery, and he ended up getting the surgery, end quote. Now, Philly season, of course, has been a complete nightmare. 23 and 54. Embiid, George, and Maxey are now all done for the season. Onsides, offsides, the Sixers should blow it up this offseason and trade Embiid.
I said they should have traded Joel Embiid last offseason. Now you're going to trade Joel Embiid off a year where he barely played or missed a lot of time, and you're going to expect to get a lot back in return. I still think you could get stuff for Embiid and get a nice compensation, a nice package for Joel Embiid, but I really thought last year was the year to do so, and for whatever reasons, the Sixers did not do that. But I am still on onsides here that the Sixers should blow it up this offseason and trade Joel Embiid because you're not winning a championship with him. I like Tyrese Maxey a lot. Paul George, you got to get rid of him. That's been a disaster. They couldn't find the second right player for Joel Embiid for years. Now it's too late, and he's still a phenomenal player, but there's a lot of wear and tear on that body, and it's not only just not finding him the second player. Joel Embiid, and I've pointed this out for years, in a lot of these crucial games, he is out of gas, he is not in shape, and he has a lot of turnovers in big spots. So he is a phenomenal player, don't get me wrong, but I think his time should end in Philadelphia, and it's best for both parties to move on. So the Sixers should blow it up this offseason and trade Joel the Process Embiid. I would go on sides.
So Ja Morant is once again under hot water. This time he mimicked.
Can I do his celebration on YouTube? Is that allowed? I don't know. Did you see the AI versions of it?
I don't think I did.
They have literally.
Oh, like actual.
They have put guns in his hands. Now, there's enough videos of guns, or were they toy guns or whatever, in his hands. But they did that celebration that he did the other night with the air gun, and they had put actual guns in his hands. If it's like, say hello to my little friend now.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, he was mimicking shooting a gun with his finger during Thursday's game against the Heat. This was after he was warned by the league for making a similar gesture earlier in the week. Now, Morant wasn't suspended, but the league did fine him $75,000 for the gesture. Onside, offsides, the NBA got it right with their punishment for Ja Morant.
So, if any other player did this in the league, I think I'd be ripping it. Because if you just do like a little gun celebration or something like that, and I guess I just did it for the YouTube cameras, or if you shoot like a bow and arrow or something like that, I don't think it's that big of a deal. But when you are Ja Morant, and this has been an issue with you, how much of a knucklehead can you actually be? And obviously, Ja Morant could be a big knucklehead. So the NBA got it right with their punishment for Morant. I'm fine with it. I'd probably be freaking out if it was any other player in the league, but it's not. So, yeah, I think the NBA got this one right. Onside.
All right, last one here. Ole Miss head coach Chris Beard will remain at Oxford despite being a finalist for the Texas A&M job.
We've kind of become the coaches show here.
Yeah,
we've had Beard on talking about his future, Chris Mack talking about his future, Porter Moser, also Josh Pastner. Coaches come to talk to us about their futures if they're ever being offered jobs or if maybe they're out of coaching and they want a job. Dan Mullen as well. All these coaches. I want a cut of their contract. I'm not even asking for 10%. How about like 2% of these deals that you're signing?
So, according to multiple reports, Beard will receive a raise alongside an NIL budget that will be regarded as one of the top in the SEC. Onsides, offsides, Chris Beard will leave Ole Miss and take over a blue blood type program within the next 5 years.
Howdy toddy. They got a lot of money. And look, people have been trying to get Lane Kiffin away, and Lane Kiffin has not left Ole Miss. I think Chris Beard can be similar, but remember, Chris Beard was at Texas Tech, goes to Texas. We all know what happened off the court. And then he had to resurface at Ole Miss. I remember a few years back when Roy Williams retired, I was sitting here saying, what about Chris Beard to UNC? I'd place a phone call. I think Chris Beard's very happy at Ole Miss. I think he could coach at Ole Miss for the rest of his career. But when one of these big blue bloods open up, and UNC could be one if Hubert Davis doesn't have a good year this upcoming year, then I could see Chris Beard leaving. I don't think Chris Beard's just leaving for Texas A&M, like let's say, and that obviously didn't happen. But if you tell me a UNC opens up, I could see Chris Beard leaving for that. So Chris Beard will leave Ole Miss and take over a blue blood type program within the next 5 years. I'm going to lean more onsides than offsides on this one. So we'll wrap it up there. Going a little onsides for Chris Beard. Alrighty, 18 after the hour, Westwood One's Radio Row live at the Final Four. We'll come on back. This man, I thought he had a good chance of getting here. Now, they ran into a juggernaut that is Duke, and man, Duke just frustrated them with their suffocating defense. But we will be joined by Nate Oats, the head man at Alabama, when we come on back in 5 minutes from San Antonio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back to the Zach Gelb Show.
Alrighty, welcome back inside the Convention Center in San Antonio for the Final Four. This is Westwood One's coverage of the Final Four. Zach Gelb here with you on the Infinity Sports Network, and what a treat this is. Now joining us, he is the basketball coach at Alabama. He's going to be entering already his 7th season with the Crimson Tide, and that is Nate Oats, kind enough to join us right now. Coach, appreciate the time. How you been?
I've been great. I'd be a lot better if I wasn't on this show and I was coaching this week like last year, but you know, we had a good year, a great year compared to what, you know, when I took over the program, but where we've gotten it to now, a little disappointed we're still not playing. That was the plan, but in a one-game elimination tournament, it doesn't always work like that. And we ran into a pretty good team at Duke. They're very good.
Well, you ripped off the Band-Aid. I was going to start you off with the softball, be like ranch or blue cheese, because I know you're in Buffalo for all those years.
We
So
can talk about that too if you'd like.
Oh, well, go ahead.
You can't be in Buffalo and ask for ranch.
Yeah,
It's like,
thank you.
no, it's blue cheese. There's not even an option. But
It's a character flaw for me.
I have 3 daughters. They all ask for ranch. So
Oh.
I don't claim it. I'm like, what? But no, you go. Not the real question, because that's not even a question if you've ever lived in Buffalo. It's they don't even offer ranch up there. The real question is whether you're going to like, where do you get your wings?
Barbill.
Where do you go?
Barbill's my favorite. It's a
wow.
newer spot. It's about 20 minutes from the football stadium. For the
So it
Bills.
was always Anchor Bar and Duff's was the big debate.
Yep.
So there's another one now. I don't. Was that place even in existence when I was in Buffalo?
I don't know, but I was always Anchor Bar or Duff's because my sister and my cousin both went to SUNY Buffalo, and we always went to Duff's. I thought Anchor Bar was a little bit overrated.
And Duff's was right there next to campus. We took our recruits to Duff's.
And then Barbill came on the scene, and I've never looked
Where's
back.
Barbill?
I think it's East Aurora.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's what I'm saying. The debate up there is not ranch or blue cheese. It's just blue cheese. Don't even ask. It's more like, where do you get your wings from?
I will send you a photo after this of the wings from Barbill, and I think you'll never go back to Duff's or Anchor Bar.
Yeah, there's a Santora's. If you had those,
No, I haven't.
That's right next to campus. They're pretty good too. But yeah.
So when you go back to Saturday, since we ripped off the Band-Aid a little bit, just how do you look back at what happened up against the juggernaut that is Duke?
I mean, listen. So first off, I would have loved to save a few of those threes from the BYU game. Just if we could, like bank them in the bank and use them 2 days later. So I do think after hitting 25 threes against BYU, Duke adjusted their pick and roll coverage. They built out, and they've got great size. I mean, they start 6'6" across the board, 1, 2, 3, 6'9" point guard at the power forward spot. That's going to be in the NBA for a very long time, and then a 7'2" center with a 9'8" standing reach. So it makes it hard to score at the rim. Their size, they did a great job building out on the three. We didn't shoot it as well as we had the first unanimous first team All-American in school history in Mark Sears. I thought their size bothered him a little bit. He didn't shoot it nearly. I mean, shooting at 10 threes the game before, and then, he didn't have his best shooting night against Duke, but I thought their size bothered it. In hindsight, maybe we could have done a few things a little different to help try to get him freed up with it, but they switched everything. So when you've got a switchable lineup and you switch, and we didn't do a great job with our switch attack. And again, like when you're playing these tournaments and you don't have much practice time going in, you kind of revert back to some of your habits you built before. And as you get to the end of the year, you're not practicing much because you're trying to save the guy's legs. So we had, a lot of reasons we didn't play particularly well against Duke. Biggest reason, they're extremely good, very well coached, and they played great. And we just didn't get it done. And you're in a one-game elimination tournament, and that's it. So, I haven't even watched the whole thing yet. I started to watch on the play back, and I put it away. This is for another day. We'll get to it in a few weeks, maybe.
Nate Oats here with us from Alabama. You have had sustained success at Alabama. You have proven that Alabama could be more than just a football school, and I absolutely love Alabama football, to be clear. But now the question becomes, is this program ready to go win a national championship? How close do you think you guys are?
I'm right there. I mean, you look, Houston's the only program that's made more Sweet 16s since I've gotten to Alabama. Back-to-back Elite Eights. You look at the teams that were in the Final Four last year. Out of the four that were in there, we went the longest this year. We were the last one standing this year. So, we've got the number one strength of schedule in the country the last 2 years, and we're right there. If not number one, we're top 5 every year, and we're in the top 5 in Power 4 conference wins the last 5 years. So we're knocking on the door. Do we get the elite talent that Duke gets? Not as much every year, but we're right there. We had Brandon Miller, who's second pick in the draft. We've been able to get our playing style. Recruits want to come. We've proved you can win playing this style. We proved you can get to a Final Four. We just got to keep knocking on the door. In these one-game elimination tournaments like the NCAA tournament, there's a little bit of luck involved, but there's also, if you get good enough, you can, like Danny Hurley last year kept saying, they were indestructible, bulletproof, and we're not quite there yet.
Your journey is incredible. 2013, you're right, you were just wrapping up at high school. We know what you did at Buffalo as an assistant, what you've done at Buffalo as a head coach, and now what you've done at Alabama. Why is what you do just able to work in the college game?
But it's analytically based. I think there's a method behind it. We've been able to get really good players to come, and we play a style that we talk about efficiency. I'm a former math teacher, so we try to be efficient. I think it's the way we study the NBA. The NBA just does basketball. We have to do a lot of other stuff, so we try to steal a lot of the NBA. We put an NBA system in that's analytically based. It's efficient on both sides of the ball. When our defense was top 30 this year, we've had a top 3 defense in the country 2 of our years out at Alabama. And then we get players that want to make it to the NBA, and we develop them. They've got there. I think the whole thing works well. We've been able to turn a football school into a much more of a well-rounded athletic department. And when it goes talking about men's basketball and football, or women's basketball teams been good too. A lot of the athletic teams at Alabama have done well. There's 6 national championships, 6 sports that have won national championships. Shoot, football's won 18. So I think we're at a really good athletic department and player style that players want to come to, and we've been able to win a lot of games.
The last thing I ask you, because I know you got to run Nate Oats from Alabama, you've gone up against all 4 teams here in the Final Four. Just what's your breakdown from?
I mean, listen, Auburn and Florida, both are super well balanced, really well coached. It's going to be a great game. It's going to come down to who can make
Right
shots at a higher clip. Yeah, it is. And then the other side, it's a little bit more. Duke's young, but those guys don't play like freshmen. They're super talented. They got great size everywhere. Houston plays extremely hard and makes life really difficult with their defense. It's going to be interesting to know, how aggressive, physical they are on defense affect some of the freshmen at Duke, Cooper Flagg, like the way I don't know. Like those guys have proven to be pretty good. I thought they were great when we played them. That to me is going to be very, very interesting to watch. That game right there.
Last thing, if you ever win a championship in Alabama, does Rico Bosco, does he get a ring?
Rico's my guy. Yeah, we should definitely give him a ring. He's got my back out there in the media with you guys all the time. So
well, I'm telling you, those bus trips are tough. You got to get back to the Final Four and win a championship for him.
I know, man. He's we got to get it there for him. Rico's our guy.
Coach, great to reconnect with you. Thanks so much.
All right, appreciate it. Roll Tide.
There he is, a writer, if you know what I'm talking about. And Coach Nate Oats joining us on the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Good conversation with him. Make this spring a stylish one with on-trend looks for every occasion when you shop at Kohl's and Kohl's.com, where families come first. There's certain college basketball coaches that they just have that raspy voice. Izzo, Brad Underwood, Nate Oats, that they could talk about anything and I could just listen. But Nate Oats, he kind of checks all the boxes in terms of what I wanted to guess. Has a great story from being a high school coach, assistant on Bobby Hurley's staff. You want to talk about another maniac. And then took over Buffalo, few NCAA tournament appearances. And then what he's done at Alabama, he has got to a spot now that the only thing that has not been done is to get to that championship game and win that championship game. But he's been to a Final Four. They have improved that program immensely. And you could even tell he was a little careful to say it because you want to still be sensitive. You know what drives the train in Alabama. It's the football program. But he basically said, we've proven we could be more than just a football school is what he was getting at. And he's absolutely right because of the fact that you look at, remember Kentucky with Calipari? And he said, hey, it was Mark Stoops who said it. We're more than just a basketball school. And with how much football drives the train, Mark Stoops didn't like that. When it was at Calipari, he said, hey, we're a basketball school. And Mark Stoops was like, oh, what about our football program? And since Stoops has the backing of the money with football and how big that is, even though it's Kentucky basketball, we all know they're a basketball school, Calipari had to kind of apologize. I think the Alabama athletic department's in a good spot right now. We're sure Nick Saban is no longer the head coach, but with that being said, I believe in Kalen DeBoer. Now, Kalen DeBoer has to make the playoff this year or it's going to get ugly there quickly, and I'm a believer and a supporter of Kalen DeBoer. But the basketball program, the last 4 or 5 years, Oats is now going into 7, they have done a sensational job, and you have these 2 big programs now. And I would assume that Alabama football is going to continue to be Alabama football, but now you have to take the basketball program not only seriously, but you expect them to get back to a Final Four. You expect them to be in the mix to go win a national championship, and that's the one thing left on what is a early but very impressive resume of Nate Oats. And look how quick, right? At a mid-major in Buffalo, was able to win. At Alabama, first big job in the SEC. And sometimes when you take a big job, but we've seen coaches that have been darlings of the NCAA tournament, have been at these mid-majors, have been at these smaller schools, and then they get to the big job, and they are a chicken without their head on, just absolutely cut off, and they're just in far too deep, and they can't find a way to get the job done, and they got to go somewhere else. For Nate Oats, he's made that seamless transition where it's from high school into college as an assistant, into a first-time head coaching job in college, and then his first major job, which Alabama is now a major job. And he's someone, we talk about Chris Beard potentially leaving Ole Miss for a blue blood. I think that Nate Oats doesn't leave Alabama unless if it's for a blue blood, but he is fit there, and he has created his own identity and his own way at Alabama, and it's been very impressive. So I appreciate him jumping on board with us. By the way, take your game day rituals on the road with Marriott Bonvoy. Over 30 hotel brands for every kind of fan. Explore more. Make sure you do this at MarriottBonvoy.com/NCAA. One more segment on Westwood One's Radio Row for the Final Four. I am going to the games tomorrow. We'll hopefully be back on Monday. If I'm stranded in San Antonio on Monday and I got to do another show here, that's going to be something. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of engineers here that won't be happy with me. But there is a chance that always happens, especially with how now we fly in this country. But we'll come on back. We actually have a new listener song. This was sent my way. I saw it on the good old cesspool that is Twitter. So we'll take a look into a new listener song that was sent to us. And before we close out shop here and close things down, we, of course, I sound like McAfee there, down. How about just down? We will also take you through some predictions and go a little against the spread and tell you who's going to win coming up on Saturday to be playing in the national championship game on Monday evening. Let's send it back to New York City studios. I will get it right this time. And standing by with the latest sports flash is our dear friend, our leader, my captain, El Capitan, Marco Belletti.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
Apology accepted. Now, Shedeur Sanders throwing to Travis Hunter. That was the highlight for Colorado's pro day. Both players expected to go in the top of the draft. Where exactly does remain a mystery. Titans, Browns, Giants, they own the top three picks. They were all represented, all three GMs in attendance, along with head coaches Kevin Stefanski and Brian Dable. NBA has fined Ja Morant $75,000 for his finger gun gesture on Thursday. This after they issued him a warning on the same issue on Tuesday. Now, keep in mind, a pair of incidents with real guns got Morant suspended twice in 2023. Plenty of action on the floor later tonight, including a big one with the Warriors and Nuggets. Now, Golden State just a game and a half behind Denver for the 3 seed, one back of the Lakers for the 4, and of course, home court. Steph Curry feeling like things are coming together.
I don't know how far we can climb, but just to, we just want to guarantee a playoff series, and we got work to do, but we're in good shape.
Baseball, the Mets are in front of the Blue Jays 5-0, bottom of the 8th in their home opener. Juan Soto's driven in a run. A's and Rockies even at 2, they're in the 5th. Yankees a 5-1 lead on the Pirates, they're in the 4th. Mariners and Giants, they're tied at 3 in the 3rd. Some finals as the Tigers erased the White Sox 7-4. Trevor Story a 3-run shot. Red Sox took out the Cardinals 13-9, and the Cubs topped the Padres 3-1. I'm Marco Belletti.
This is the Infinity Sports Network. Follow us on X. Our handle is INF Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 4 minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Hey, this is Howie. And this is Nick from the Backstreet Boys. And you're listening to the Zach Gelb Show. And guess what? Zach is back. All right.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
Oh, my God.
All Alrighty, it's time to answer Ask the Pros question of the day. It's brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Marcus in Long Beach says, Zach, who do you have advancing to the national championship game on Monday night? You could submit a question by tweeting at INFSportsNet or at Zach Gelb. That's ZACHGELB using the hashtag Ask the Pros. Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Before we get to that answer, we have a new listener song. So I guess this has become a thing now because we've had multiple songs sent our way. Usually the great Psych Mampter sends in a few songs. I think we have a new guy sending in songs. I'll get his name as my mentions are just crazy right now, but I had his name and then I lost it. But there is, it is Wolfram Jack Bobby. So whoever the heck is that? Oh, actually, I've interacted with this guy on Twitter before. He has not adjusted his photos that he uses of me because I think he first became accustomed to me when I was a very gargantuan individual. So now when he puts my face on things and makes me sing, it looks nothing like me anymore. But anyway, this fine individual did send us a new listener song, so we will debut it right now, and then we'll kind of be like Paula Abdul, Randy Jackson, and Simon Cowell. And this is not the greatest trifecta like those three were. That was the big three. Now it's like the three duds here, or the three dunces here with Stu, Samter, and yours truly. But here is a new listener song. Let's sample about a minute and 20 seconds of it. Go ahead. Take it away.
The sun comes up, a coffee in my hand. Infinity Sports out across the land. Maggie and McMuffin, they start the show with the day's first stories. Let's get up and go. 852-242-220's the line.
Your number.
Call up, share what's on your mind. Morning, noon, or late night too. They're the voices that carry me through. Zach Gelb takes over when the day's in swing. Afternoons roll by with the insights he brings. JR's the voice when the sun starts to fall. Evening reflections, he's there for us all. Bart Winkler's calm in the dead of the night. A beacon of wisdom neath the moon's soft light. And when night turns deep as you're trying to rest, Hickey and Shep and Wolf make those hours the best.
All righty, Stu. First up, your thoughts, your review here.
I like it. It is not as good as some of the songs we played previously, like the Shep songs. The AI Shep songs are really good.
The Shep songs about LeBron not getting back to him was awesome. I wonder what Shep was thinking when LeBron went up McAfee. Was he like, I was on to something?
That's a win for
I
him,
was
probably,
close.
yeah.
You know, if McAfee didn't request it, maybe the Lakers would get back to me.
Yeah.
All righty.
Solid. So I think very solid. Not as good as some of the other ones, but still good.
Out of a letter grade, what is it?
I would go with a B-.
Okay. Samter?
Yeah, that one wasn't my favorite.
You would kind of be the Simon Cowell of the bunch,
would,
by the way.
100%.
Yeah, I wasn't a big fan of that one. That one was fine. It wasn't...
Stu is definitely Paula Abdul.
Oh, Stu.
I would be Randy Jackson, and you would be Simon Cowell.
Well, I think that works. But listen, it was fine. But of the ones that we've heard of, the AI ones, it wasn't up there. It wasn't there.
Yeah, I thought the Hickey song was better.
Oh,
by the way,
Hickey
Mike, I just saw you on the YouTube stream. I haven't seen you in like 2 days. I just what was his face that just popped up on the screen? That was a little startling, but no, I would agree. I thought the Hickey song was really good. The Shep songs about LeBron were the best. This one, it was nice because it brought the whole network together. You know, I would have liked the Bill Ryder plug maybe in there. They got pretty much every no Rich Eisen mentioned.
No.
They got the phone number wrong, but that was a recent change, so I can't crush people for that. I would say it could use some work. You know, it's a no for me, dog, from now, but if you come back next year with the better song next week, maybe it could be a little bit better. I think we've set a high enough standard with these listener songs that one could use a little work. Is that fair?
I think it's fair. Now, Terry Wilson on the chat says, country sucks. I think it's good, though, because
I'm from Texas right now.
I'm saying we're in San Antonio. It's perfect for where we're at right now. It's well on theme.
Yeah. People at Mendoza goes, Paula Abstula. Stula. All righty, let's get to some predictions to answer the Ask the Pros question of the day. Florida and Auburn, this pains me because I really want Auburn to win. I'm a Bruce Pearl guy. The points are just saying, take them. I picked Florida and Duke before the tourney. I'm not looking back here. I think Walter Clayton Jr. is just the most entertaining player in this tournament. Going into a football stadium here, you never know how that kind of works, but I think Florida's just going to edge past Auburn. This has been a favorite tournament, Stu. I'm taking the Gators here, laying the 2.5. Yourself?
I agree with you. I thought earlier in the week I was kind of leaning Auburn, but the more I listened to people and more I thought about it, I think Florida's I just think they're a better team, so I'll pick them.
Samter, you making this 3 for 3 here?
No, I'm going to Auburn, baby.
Okay, so Samter's taking Auburn outright, plus the 2.5 points, and sprinkle it on the money line if you're listening to Samter. Alrighty, Houston and Duke. I feel like Houston has just been, in a big-time way, disrespected. And I've been part of it. I've acknowledged the greatness of Kelvin Sampson. I've acknowledged the greatness of that team. It's not really me disrespecting Houston. It's just more so how I view Duke. And could this be one of those moments in sports history where we look back at it and you say, okay, Duke, everyone thought they were going to win, and then it's weird to call Houston an underdog. They're not your traditional underdog because they are a number 1 overall seed with 4 number 1 overall seeds. But the lesser team, the team that's not expected to win, they end up getting the job done. We've seen bigger upsets than if we walk out of Saturday and Houston beats Duke. But I'm not betting against Duke right now. I'm going to lay the number here. It's been a favorite tournament. I honestly don't like either of these spreads, and I've done decent on the spreads in the tournament, but this has been a favorite tournament, so I'm not going to second-guess it here. I'm taking Florida laying 2.5, and I'm taking Duke laying 5.5. Mr. Duke, Stu Kovacs.
Oh, yeah, Mr. Duke from 20 years ago. I had Houston winning it all in my original bracket. I had them beating Duke in the Final Four to get to the championship. But the way that Duke is played in this tournament, I don't think anyone's beating them. So I do think they're going to beat Houston.
So I have Florida and Duke on Monday night. You have Florida and Duke on Monday night. Samter has Auburn. And will they be going up against the Dukies?
Stu, I'm a little bit disappointed that you're going against your pre-tournament pick. I mean,
I'm with you, Samter.
Right?
I thought that was lame.
I know.
If you picked them to go all the way, stick with it, man. Stick with it. I know Duke's playing well, but you know what? Houston just crushed Tennessee. So, I mean, it's not like they're playing bad basketball either. So I'm a little bit disappointed.
Should I trip Stu tonight when we take our stroll down the Riverwalk so he falls in?
You should trip Stu anytime, anywhere. You should always be tripping Stu.
Gotcha.
Because Stu is tripping. But, yeah, I'm going Duke, of course, as well. Cooper Flagg is going to dominate, and Cole Konkanippel, however you pronounce his name, is going to dominate. It's going to be Duke, and it's going to be Duke and Auburn.
All righty. Well, we appreciate all the great engineers here, a part of the Westwood One staff, the creme de la creme in our business, all the great engineers on site. Also, big thanks to Stu, Samter, Botcher, back in our New York City headquarters. And fine thank you to all the fine folks here at Westwood One, obviously, for having us out the last few days for San Antonio, in San Antonio for Radio Row. Big thanks today to Chris Mack for joining us, Jason Horowitz, Nate Oats, Dana Altman did stop by as well. And fun show. We will talk to you on Monday back in our New York City headquarters, hopefully at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific time. Enjoy the games, everybody. We out. Bye-bye. Peace.